Beautiful. So we're live. DJ A-Roc.
Hey, what's up? How you doing?
Good, man. Good.
So tell me about the podcast. I know you're interviewing me, but
Yeah.
what?
Yeah, Always Athens, man. It's just a podcast about the people, about the community.
Okay.
Like no agenda. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
obviously, like most of the people come on with like a small business, or like I had one of my football coaches on, just talk about that journey. But I just think, just pretty organic people from Athens. Like
I love it.
Yeah,
I love it.
yeah.
I had that idea. I just got too busy and never got around to it.
Yeah.
You know, it's one of those things when you are a small business owner, you're throwing darts at everything, and it's like, you know what? Let's build a podcast studio in Athens. So I'm glad you're doing it now. I don't have to do it. But I got a mobile podcasting system. So I'm traveling across the country doing events with some guys, and we're setting up full production anywhere, everywhere. We can do it on battery.
That's wicked, yeah.
Microphones, cameras, lights.
That's cool. That's cool.
All mobile.
I didn't think that this would be mobile. Like I thought that I would just kind of be recording, but this pod track, like I can kind of go wherever.
Yeah.
Like the only thing is like the back end. So like I'm doing zero editing. Like
Yeah, okay,
I literally
which
just
is perfect.
Yeah, popping this out and just uploading. And so then that was like, or like I was talking to Kurt and Irene from Hey, the small business that work out at Ace Nut there at the farmers market, and they mentioned the idea of like doing a podcast at the farmers market.
Yeah.
And I thought that would be pretty cool. But then I was like kind of concerned, like, wind and stuff, but like I could kind of just pause it, I don't know.
No, it's fine.
That would be kind of cool. That's cool, the traveling thing though.
Let's do that. Let's do the traveling. I can work the back end. You can be on the front of the camera.
What does the back end mean?
The
camera. That's the other.
Yeah, I'm just work the production. So we're gonna take it live where people can see you and see your guests. And
that'd be pretty cool.
Things when you're doing video, you just strip the audio and you put the audio up on iTunes, Spotify, Apple Music. But then you got the video to kind of follow up with the audio that you can put on Spotify, YouTube, Facebook,
for sure,
so people can actually see faces associated with it. So it's kind of the same thing. You just run into the issue of the best thing to do is run the audio straight to the camera. That way your lips aren't out of sync with the video.
Yeah.
Because a millisecond can make a difference, like an old Kung Fu movie.
Yeah.
So if you're doing like wireless mics to a wireless transmitter to a wireless camera, a eighth of a millisecond will show up with people's lips being out of sync.
Yeah,
so,
and it's also like so much more work than you think. Also, it's just kind of like
lot.
scares me away from it. It's I got to be able to make these podcasts on my busiest week, and a lot of that stuff, like I don't know. But I mean, I even in college, like I graduated from OU in 2020 during the pandemic, and before the pandemic happened, like Schoonover had that little podcast room. And I think we still have it.
Yeah, it's
and
still
I messed around with it, but all of the like technology, just even the audio interface stuff, like, I just had no idea what was going on. It scared me away from it.
Yeah.
And it's taken like 4 years to sack up the courage to
I was doing virtual. I was doing virtual stuff during the pandemic, so I went from mobile to virtual, and basically turned my home office, into a home video TV production. Like I can go do the weather inside my office right now.
That's pretty cool.
Painted the whole wall green, so I got a real green screen, no curtains, so the wall is actually the actual chroma key green. And then I was running OBS and doing all the fancy stuff you was doing. We wound up doing the pregame for OU when they went to the NCAA tournament. Cool. So I ran the pregame show for them from my house.
How did you get started into this, like production? Because I don't even honestly know what you do. I think you just do everything. Like,
I do everything I like doing.
Yeah, okay.
So I'll give you my resume. So I came to Athens in '97.
Cool. That's when I was born.
I graduated in 2001, so I did my 4 years in 4 years. I came here for audio production. So I went to school for audio engineering, fell into broadcasting. On top of that, I wound up taking a lot of sociology classes in college. So the social classes kind of coincide with the broadcasting with the TCOM. I think it's media studies now, but when I was in school, it was telecommunications. Mm-hmm. So you kind of got a whole view of the world and world broadcasting. So I always tell people it ain't really a conspiracy if it's true, right? Because you learn how to manipulate the media, far as lighting. Mm-hmm. It ain't really manipulate, but you can change the whole view of a scene by just changing the lighting in the room.
Yeah, it's the visual perception. Yeah.
Yes, right. So, what they say, radio killed newspaper, TV killed radio. Now you have social media killing all the above, right? Mm-hmm. But it still comes down to media, broadcasting, and perception that you're putting out. So, graduating in 2001. Couldn't find a job out of college. Stuck around Athens, and then a war broke out. Some war broke out, and somehow was in a war for almost 22 years. But this was I graduated in 2001.
Yeah. So probably a couple months, right?
So September 11th.
Okay.
So September 11th, 2001. You know, everything just kind of went boom, right? So now you're like, and I'm in Athens, and everything stopped. And at the time, my roommate was in aviation. He had just graduated. He had a job set up at NetJet in Columbus, and and I was still working at the radio station, still had my DJ business going, and we just hunkered down in Athens. And a year later, things were slowly opening back up in 2002. And at the time, I was working for a couple guys who had a business here in town that most people know, DP Doe.
Yeah. Oh, wait. What?
And I was living with the guys who opened up DP Doe in Athens, the original guys who opened it up. They came down from New York back in like 98, and I met them in 98. And I wound up living with them after college. So we were all friends anyway from that time. And, just hanging around them, seeing the business side of things. And, I was always into car audio. And it's like, why don't you just open up a car audio shop? And I said, you know what? That sounds kind of scary. But at the time, I was sitting there running DP Doe, Calzones, morning manager, hanging out with them, still have my DJ stuff going.
When did that start for you?
What, the DJing? Yeah. So I started DJing in high school.
Nice. Which is where? Where are you from?
I'm from Cleveland originally. Nice. So the DJing paid for my college career.
Yeah, wow.
So I bought all my equipment down here.
That's wicked.
So I was still DJing after school. It always been just basic income coming in because hey, you got to make it work. Yeah. But I was really making decent money DJing. And I wound up taking that money on top of what I've been saving during college and opened up my store in 2003. So I wrote a business plan in 2002, opened the store up in 2003, and ran the store until I sold it off here a couple years ago, about 2.5 years ago, so 22. So when I finally got out the store, so
Class A, right?
Yep, Class A. So it was like 19.5 years, basically, how long I had the store. I was trying to go to a solid 20 years, but I just but during that time, I still kept my DJing stuff going. Also took a job in time go by fast. So 2015, I took a job working on a cruise line. While I had the store running, while I had DJ stuff going here, while I had just started a photo booth business, so I had all these things running. My family's running a photo booth business for me. So I go work on a cruise ship 2 or 3 months at a time. We can do a whole podcast about working on cruise ships, right? So went from still kept the store running, had a good team running the store. I book weddings around my cruise ship contracts. So, I wouldn't book anything in the winter because I leave every winter for 2 to 3 months.
It's a good time to leave.
Yeah, right. And then I randomly disappear in the middle of the summer, go work on the ship for a month because you couldn't be off the ship no more than 6 months to stay an employee, right? So, you literally like 5 months and 3 weeks, I go work on the ship for a month to go keep my employment, open before I can get back on.
You like DJing on that cruise ship?
Yeah, so I was DJing on the ship. I just went there like I'd want the least amount of responsibility as possible, and somehow wound up becoming the music manager on the ship, managing the ship entertainment music team, which is 15 to 20 people at a time, from all over the world. So I do a lot of stuff.
Yeah, it sounds
but
like
it all coincides to what I went to school for, right? It all comes back to the music, the broadcasting, the production, and even with the store was all about car audio, and then I branched out the store. So I'm always looking to pivot, right? So even with the store, we went from car, we went to home. We started doing home, and then guess what? 2007 to 2010, we had a nice recession, housing collapse. So once again, fought through that, right? So, I opened up a store. We are a year into war, and, 5 years later, we get a market collapse of 2008 to 2010, and then we get through COVID, it is, and still surviving, right? And it's one of those things is you, as a small business owner, you got to be able to step back and say, all right, what works, what's not working, how can I keep this going? So it's a lot, man. So, you can pick from one of those topics and we can spend an hour talking about one of them, because it's a lot. It's one of these things that some days I don't realize how long I've been doing it because I started so young. I started at 22, 23, and I just turned 46.
Wow.
So a lot has happened in 23 years, and all positive. Can't really say anything negative, and it's stressful, but at the same time, it's your business and you're responsible for it. So
yeah. We'll start at the beginning, man. You say you're from Cleveland. What part?
So I'm from Cleveland.
Actually Cleveland.
Yeah, I'm from Cleveland.
That's what
to be more specific, I'm from the east side of Cleveland,
cool.
right?
Yeah.
So I grew up in East Cleveland. If you are familiar with Cleveland, I grew up in the city of East Cleveland, which is basically Cleveland. It's right next to Case Western Reserve, University Hospital. Cleveland Clinic was, 6-minute walk from my house, so I've seen, Cleveland Clinic over the decades, right?
That's cool.
It was one of those things that I grew up during the time of gang banging, so we had metal detectors in our school back in the 90s.
That's crazy.
Right. So we had the city cops was there. We had a paddy wagon. You know what a paddy wagon is? The van. So when you get a large fight, you throw 10 people in the back of the police van, not the police car. It's the paddy wagon.
Yeah,
so they load the paddy wagon. So I grew up during that time of life where people was gang banging. We couldn't have no night football games because somebody be shooting or somebody get shot. We had a riot at one of our basketball games one year that they basically said no more guests can attend the basketball games, because it was too much going on.
That's crazy.
So you learn survival mode there, right? And people like, man, you kind of cold about a lot of things. I say, well, when you grow up the way I grew up,
I couldn't even pretend like I could understand what you're talking about.
Yeah. So and it was one of these things. It was the when it was a fight in high school, you didn't run towards a fight. You usually ran the opposite way because somebody was usually going to be shooting.
That's
right. And it's not even making this up, right? You can't anybody that grew up in the inner city during that time of the year. What's going on now is not much better, but it was pretty blatant. The gun violence has been around for 30-something years, 40 years. If you start, you can go back and listen to The Message, the song The Message. The message hasn't changed. It's still the same message 40 years later. That song's probably 40 years old, if not older, right? And you can pull up the song, The Message, and you can listen to the song and listen like, man, this is a 7-minute song, and it's talking about the same stuff that's still going on. So what has changed? Not much, right? But I had the opportunity to get away, right? To go to school. Yeah, so I came to OU.
How did you hear about it? Yeah.
So I found opportunities to avoid getting caught up with gang banging and selling drugs. And it was called getting a job.
Productive, yeah.
Yeah, and it was one of these things like, you know what, I need a job. I got a job because I wanted a car.
Yeah, nice. Freedom.
I needed a car, right? As soon as I turned 16, I was taking driver's ed, and I was like, I got to get me a car. I need some wheels, right? You know what I'm saying? So I had to get a job, right? Now, it was a lot easier ways to get money during that time. By not really getting a job because I could have been out doing some of the things some of my friends were doing, and I was like, I'm not trying to do that, right? Because that just turned to you getting arrested or getting shot or something even worse, right?
It's good to have that like foresight back then too.
Well, yeah, you see it, you see it firsthand because it was in your face, you know what I'm saying? When you got friends coming to school talking about they got shot at the night before, it's like, I don't want to go that route.
It's a different world.
Right. Yeah. So I wound up getting involved with, I tried doing sports, but I couldn't make no money. Sports was cutting into me working after school. So I started doing after like Saturday programs. And I got into a program called Upward Bound, which they used to have it at OU. So they have it for, it's basically for like rural areas, inner city areas, low income areas. Okay. So it's made for to give people the opportunity to see what college can be like. So you literally go to school in the summer, but it's not summer school. It's summer college, right? And they give you these prep courses for the upcoming school year. You meet a lot of people from all over the city, all over the county. And they take you on college trips. They take you for college visits, you know. So they get you out the city and take you different places and show you different culture. And one of the trips was to Ohio University.
Cool.
You know, we went to several different colleges around the state of Ohio, you know, but this place stuck to me the most, right? And so when I got ready to graduate, you know, it was like, all right, do I stay in Cleveland, go get a job, or do I go to college with no money, right? You know, it's like, well, you can take a loan out, of course, right? Of course you can, right? You know, I grew up in a very, very poor household, you know, single parent household, and the perception was go get you a job, right? Don't go to college, because I was going to be maybe the second person in my entire family to go to college. My entire family. This is not just my immediate household.
Yeah.
You know, so it wasn't one of those things that's told to you, you know. And I remember in high school, you know, the counselor was different than my summer enrichment program. So my high school counselor was like, yeah, you can go to Tri-C. I'm like, why would I do that, right? You know, nothing against Tri-C, but I'm like, I got the grades to do it. You know, I was top of my class, you know, and I was like, I'm going to sign up for this college thing and see how it work out. And I wasn't going on an athletic scholarship like a lot of people had athletic, you know, scholarships. And I was just going on straight, hey, I got a loan and, you know, a couple grants, and I'm going to see what happens. Yeah. And so I came to OU, brought all my DJing equipment down here.
Yeah.
And rest, you know, it was, I tell people the story because a lot of people don't realize this. You know, college isn't for everyone, okay? And it's all what you make it.
Yeah.
Is what you make it, you know. But I came down to OU. I was in the top of my class. I was in the top 25 of my class. Now, around here, you say, are you from the area? So your class may be, you know, 200-300 people, right?
It was like 250, yeah.
250, okay.
And we were a bigger class. I think most of them are small.
Yeah, my class was just under 500.
Oh, wow, okay.
Okay. My school was 2,000 people. So, you know, and I'm in top of my class, and I get down here, and I'm testing, doing all, see where I test at for my classes. And, you know, I was testing in at a, you know, 8th, 9th grade reading level. And that let you know how prepared I was to come to college.
Yeah, sure.
Right. Now, I was taking engineering, like we had the vocational classes. So I was taking like engineering. I was in honors classes, you know. And I'm still on top of my classes, making great grades, working 30 hours a week. And I get down here, and it's like, man, your reading level is low. Yeah. You know, now, is that my fault or is it my school fault, right? Is it, you know, I'm still finished top of my class, but down here I'm below average, you know, because I just wasn't prepared to come to college. So that was a struggle for me in school. And that's what a lot of people don't realize. Like, people that come from some of the poorest areas, you know, they get the opportunity to come to school, but how do you retain these people, right? So OU have, you know, places in the library for help, like in a basement, the first floor of the library. You can go in there, and it's like, you know, like a help center. And I was there, I mean, almost every day, right? Trying to better myself, trying to get my reading up, math skills, you know, just the basic stuff that, like, man, I'm doing great in high school, and I'm down here like about to fell out, you know, because it was a struggle. So, you know, that kind of made me really push forward even harder, because I was like, I got no choice. I got to make this work.
Damn.
You know, so it you know, it was one of these things that, you know, a lot of folks don't discuss. And I mean, it probably happens around here a lot. They just push you through the system. Hey, you're a great guy, man. You showing up, you doing your thing, all right, you know. Then you get out in the real world, like, I ain't learned nothing. I don't know how to balance a check. I can't read. You know, I was like reading, we had to read like 6 chapters a night, you know, and I'm like struggling trying to get through these and comprehending and retaining. And on top of that, I was working, you know, working my way through school. So now I'm reading 6 chapters a night, trying to work 4 hours a day, which people like, oh, 4 hours not a lot. Yeah, it's 4 hours when you're taking 16 to 20 credit hours.
For sure.
A quarter, right? Yeah. So it adds up. But so push through college, and here we are, man. You know, you learn all these different things, you know, going forward. But
yeah, that's cool that you started a business after going to college. You know, like you would think a lot of people get degrees to go to school, but you're like, fuck it, I'll stay down here. Because that's interesting. Like, do you think it was just happenstance that like you kind of ran into those DPO guys and then ended up staying in Athens? Like, why do you think you're still in Athens?
Well, I stayed at Athens because I worked at the radio station.
WXTQ?
No, WOUB, public radio.
WOUB. Okay.
Yeah, yep. So I worked the public radio, and I did the public broadcasting side, the NPR side during the week, and I did the urban mix show on the weekends.
Nice.
But I knew what the 10-year plan was for the university. You know, OU always released a 10-year plan. So I knew everything that was happening in the region because I worked at the news station. So I knew what was going on. I was like, man, this is not a bad place to kind of hunker down for a while and you know, see what happens, you know. So you saw the vision, you saw what was coming. You know, and just for that type of knowledge, you know, it helps you out to kind of plan your steps. You know, my thing was I wasn't trying to move somewhere and be struggling trying to live. Yeah. Right. You know, I had options to move down to Georgia or go back to Cleveland or looked at stuff in Nashville. But it's like, I like Athens. Right. And it's one of these things, you know, people are quick to run out of here. And I stayed, right? And no matter where you go, it's all what you make of it. Yeah, right? So people always say, I can't believe you stayed in Athens. Like, well, I can't believe you didn't stay in Athens. You know, and it's one of these things, and I don't give a where you go, right? If you're not going to put the time and energy into it, you're just going to fall into the cracks. Yeah.
Like, you have to be engaged anywhere you are.
You got to be engaged, right? Yeah. You know, so I always been engaged, you know, always, you know, not trying to be outspoken, but always trying to, you know, common sense type stuff. When I say things like I go to city council a lot, you know, and I bring up topics, you know, and I'm not there to get a council a hard time. I'm there honestly to make the viewers at home think about what I'm saying, right? The council only can do so much.
Yeah, give me an example.
Well, so when you look at why Athens has been one of the places it's been, is because the council has kept it this way. The city, the community, right? It has been a hard place to start a business in Athens. So when you have places wanting to come here and then you have restrictions in front of them. Now, I get having some restrictions, but telling the business they got to have X amount of trees in front of their business or they can't, right?
Fuck, yeah.
Right. So you know the story, right? Yeah. And I get it. You want to keep Athens looking at Athens. You want to keep it green. But we're in the middle of a national force.
Literally, we're in
the middle of a national force, right? But that discouraged people, right? And what you have to look at as, you know, people that's anti-business is businesses pay taxes. Taxes pay for your schools, pay for your roads, pay for your sewer system, right? It's like property taxes. But when you are employing people in the city, they are paying what? Taxes. Right? So you need to keep jobs here. You can't say we want to have more housing in Athens if you don't have jobs for the people you're providing housing for. It don't add up.
Yeah, where do they work? The university?
Where do they work?
The university.
Right?
Is the only question. Right? Where else?
Right. Well, it's several places in town, right? You got Quadell, you know, you got Stumac, you got Pepsi.
Southeast
you got South, you know. But at the same time, when you say we want more housing, you need to have more jobs, right? And for you to have more jobs, you got to be willing to, you know, say, all right, yeah, we're going to allow this to happen. Not continue to put roadblocks that's 90 years old into place, right? You know, so you say, well, you know, we want to build this restaurant here. Okay, well, you don't have the right of way for this. Okay, well, what can we do to get the right of way? Right? What do we got to do? All right, we can build it here, but you got to have this much setback. That's cool, right? That's no problem.
Setback meaning like distance from the road?
From the road, right? Okay. Which is acceptable. But you got to put in 50 trees. It's not going to...
Cost effective.
Well, it ain't cost effective. It's you know, it was a situation that they wanted the business to put in. They wanted the business to eliminate green space to put parking in because they had to have X amount of parking spaces. But then they wanted them to recreate the green space by planting trees. Mm-hmm. There was never no trees here anyway.
Yeah.
So you want me to get rid of the grass, put parking spaces in that we don't need, and then put islands in the middle of them parking spaces. It don't make any sense.
Yeah,
right?
it's like the regulation, right? It's like what you're
regulation,
talking about.
right?
So like, you think it is just like old rules that are still upkept? Like, why do you think that there's because if you like,
it takes people to go in and say, hey, why don't we adjust this to 2025, right? Not 1955, not 1995. Let's bring this up to where it can kind of suit people, right? And then you have some people who don't want the Amazon warehouse in their backyard, right? Mm-hmm. They don't want these big companies here and so forth. I get it, right? And Athens is survived many decades off the small business community. But during the pandemic, okay, that should have been an eye-opener when half your community is told don't come back to town, right? So when you got the biggest employer telling employees don't come to campus and telling their biggest clients, which are students, don't come back to college till we figure this out during the pandemic, you just lost, 50% of your population, 50% income, 50% of people spending money uptown Athens or even at Walmart. Right?
Where they're already struggling for like the couple months the students are gone.
Right.
Yeah,
so now you got to think about, so now I just lost my clients. How do I continue to pay my staff? And it just trickles down, right? So you say, all right, well, now we just lost our income coming in, and I got 10 people I got to pay, right? So just say you Pepsi, and no one's buying Pepsi in town because you just lost 10,000 people. So now you got 20 drivers who, all right, we don't got no deliveries because nobody's selling any product, right? And it's just a full circle. It just keep going around. Well, now we got to figure this out, right? And I'm just using Pepsi as an example, but that's just how it goes, right? And what for me, what the store was, all right, the store remained busy, but my DJing stopped, right? Because all the venues was closed.
Yeah. This is 740 audio now, or this is
2020. Yeah. So it was Class A sounds at the time.
Oh, right? It still was Class A.
Yeah. Okay. So, you look at all these different things and say, all right, what do we do, right? It's the pivot. That's why I was saying I was doing the podcast and the virtual stuff, during the pandemic. But, that's the thing. When you look at what happened to a lot of small towns across the country, the movers and shakers aged out, right?
Just say that again?
The movers and shakers aged out. They
aged out.
Yeah. So I put it like this. So, and this is what you got to think about, right? How old are you?
27.
Are you 27? All right. So you take most of these nonprofits and businesses in this area, most of the people who CEOs or executive folks running these nonprofits are 60 plus, right? Then you got somebody that's coming in like me that's 40, right? And then you got somebody like you that's 25 and up. So who's going to take the helm of this office, right? And if no one wants to take this job from that 60-year-old that's retiring, what happened to that job or that business?
Oh shit!
It closes down.
Get those, and then that's 3 other jobs because
that's 3 other jobs, right? You're right. So so it trickles down. It ain't even that. You look at the nonprofits, right? You have these nonprofits, and you don't have somebody like yourself volunteering these nonprofits, right? And then somebody like myself, who've been on nonprofits for 20 years, I'm burnt out, right? So that 60-year-old who's been executive officer for the past 10 years, ready to retire. But you got the 40-year-old who've been doing it for 15 years, like, man, I'm done volunteering, right? And then you got the 25-year-old who's just trying to get their life together, trying to pay their bills, trying to get at their mom's house. They don't have the time.
Yeah. It's crazy. I mean,
what happens?
Holy shit. Yeah.
What happens? It dies, right? So you look at what happened to a lot of businesses. People like, well, this place closed up because they probably wasn't doing well. No, the place closed up because the owners are retired. Nobody's ready to take it over.
Is that what happened to Import House? What happened to that? I was pretty sad that closed.
They was probably ready to retire. You know what I'm saying? I mean, they've been around for 25, 30 years, right? They was probably ready to retire.
Yeah.
Who knows? But if I was an employee, I say, man, do y'all want to sell this to me? Right? Because it's already established. Like with 7-4 Audio, I had TJ as my replacement. You know, me and him had a plan. Hey, when I'm ready to walk away from this, it's yours, right? You do what you want. You want to keep it Class A Sounds, or you want to rebrand it, make it 7-4 Audio. But the clients are all yours, right? You know, I gave him the phone number. So the phone number that I was using for 20 years, we ported over to him. You know, now it's 7-4 Audio, right? The website, you know, I kept the Class A Sounds domain, but now it fires right to 7-4 Audio. So if you still go look up Class A Sounds, it's going to point you right to 7-4 Audio, right? Yeah. Because I wanted to push it over to him, right?
Standing on the shoulders of giants, like he's standing on your shoulders,
right?
Yeah,
so
dude,
you know, but the thing was, I kept the resource here in Athens. Before I opened the store up, there was nowhere to go get a car stereo installed, nowhere to do window tint. When I got ready to open this place up, I went to every bank in town. They said, that's the dumbest idea ever. Why would you put a stereo shop in the poorest region of Ohio? No one's going to buy this stuff, right? Yeah. But what they didn't realize, I did my market research. I knew what it was. It wasn't about the big systems and the flashy rims like you saw on TV. It was the moms needing window tint for their van, flip down TVs for their kids, remote starters for the winners.
That's
right?
Dude, that's crazy.
Right?
Yeah. You know, and now I just realized, like, my first car was a Jeep Liberty, and I actually went to Class A and got like some subwoofers and like an amp, like, for sure. So, I didn't have a trunk in that Jeep Liberty because of the stereo system.
Right. So, you know, and then we looked at people like yourself getting their first car, right? They getting their parents, you know, car that don't have a Bluetooth radio in it, got some crappy blown out speakers, right? People, man, you know, this is my son. This is his first car, and he just needs something to play something from his phone, right? Here we go, right? So it wasn't like, oh, man, it wasn't like the Columbus and Cleveland market, like I'm about to be selling 24-inch rims and putting a wall of speakers in the car. No, it was never that. It was the resource, right? Because before we started tinting windows, you had to go to Columbus to get your windows tinted. It was placed in Parkersburg, but most people drove north to Columbus, right? If you wanted a stereo, guess what? You was going to Columbus. You know, it was a Circuit City when we first opened. They wound up closing in Parkersburg about 3-4 years into business. Best Buy opened up while I was in business in Lancaster. So the big box stores, but they were still 45 minutes away. Sure. So it wasn't like, oh, yeah, I'm about to just drive up and get this done. No, it was a whole day. Yeah. Right? So my goal was to keep everything affordable for the region. And keep people in Athens, right? It was the things like, all right, I can give you the same service that Lancaster getting for the same price, and you don't have to spend a whole day in Lancaster, right? Because you weren't just going to Lancaster or Parkersburg to get a service done, right? Oh, I'm going to go to Parkersburg, get my windows tinted. People used to say, well, I can go to Parkersburg, get it done for $10 cheaper, right? I say, so you're going to spend that on gas. Now, what they didn't know was the guy who was tinting windows for me, his shop was the one they was going to in Parkersburg. So he put his $10 on. Like, I made no money on window tint because it added a service to town, right? Yeah. It was never a big money maker for me. But my goal was if I kept people in town, they come into the store, they may buy something else. Certainly. They may want to get their car detailed or something like that, right? But it kept them from going to Parkersburg. Because you weren't just going to Parkersburg and say $10. Now you got to go down there for 3 or 4 hours. You're going to go to the mall. You're going to spend money. You're going to get something to eat. You're going to go to Outback. You're going to go get you a sandwich from somewhere. You're going to walk around the mall. You're going to buy you something. It ain't just like I'm going to go save $10 on window tint. You're going to spend another $300 doing something while your windows are getting tinted, right? But it kept that money in town.
That's really smart. Yeah, they're like kind of lost leader. Not even like,
it was a lost leader.
Chickens.
It was a lost leader, right? You know, but in hopes that it will grab folks and keep them here.
Yeah, or even just build rapport with the customers.
Right. Well, you know, and believe it or not, most of our customers came from Pomeroy, Gallipolis, Benton County. So, you know,
it kind of makes sense. They come to our town, well, maybe Gallipolis, but like they come grocery shop.
Yeah, they come grocery shop, right? So literally, they come in and they go to Walmart. Yeah. Right. Oh, we're gonna go down to Walmart. We back there, walk on the bike path, go to Walmart, come back. You know, or they call and say, hey, can you guys pick us up? We got a lot of groceries, right? You know, we'll go pick them up from Walmart, give them their car, you know, so forth. But, you know, it was one of these things that my goal has always trying to keep business here in town, right? So it comes to that same thing, right? It's like, don't run people away. Try to work with them, right? Don't sit there and say, you know what, you got to have this and you got to look this way. You know, I went to city council, you know, talking about the signs, and they got to go through 3 readings for city council for a business to get a sign approved. It's like, man, you just
what's up with the bureaucracy?
Just dragging people through the mud, right?
It's kind of what the same thing with the trees thing. Like, you need to go plant 50 trees. Like, because you fucking told me to? Who are you? Let it go.
Right. So, and I get it. You want to keep it green. Now, you go to some cities. You go to Dublin, Columbus, and you go to New Albany, you can see the sign laws. Like, there's no signs over like 7 feet there, right? You can see the consistency. Yeah, but it's also a $1 billion town, right? You're looking at $1 million houses and the best school district in the state. That's not us. Because those people living there are driving to Columbus to make their living, right? They're driving to the surrounding areas. They go in downtown Columbus. They making $100,000, $200,000 a year, right? I get it. Here, that's not the case, right? So my thing was always, how can I bring something to community? How can I keep money in the community, right? How can I create a job? Like the auto detailing created a job, right? I wasn't trying to clean cars, but it created 2 jobs.
Yeah, it's cool.
Right? And it gave people a resource. Like, oh, man, I want to get my car. So like, who's going to pay to have somebody clean their car? Guess what? Those minivans full of French fries and crayons, you know what I'm saying?
My buddy just had one done at 740 Audio.
Right. Yeah. So, and it's time is money, right? How much time you want to put in getting that spilled milk out the backseat of that car, right? It was one thing.
It's not like 1 for 1 too, right? Like, it would take, like, the detail takes 3 hours. Like, it's going to take your ass longer than 3 hours to get to the level of quality that person gave you. Certainly.
3 to 4 hours, right? So once again, every year I used to go through and evaluate the business. All right, what didn't sell? What did sell? What can I get rid of? What can I keep? What can I add on? Go to trade shows, see what's new. Like, oh man, this is great, but can I sell this in Athens? Can people afford this? Medium income is $35,000. Can I sell this product in my area?
Yeah, well, it's like, that's kind of my, like, when I think, why would you open a business in Athens when you could open the same, kind of Tim Martin pointed this out. Yeah, Tim Martin was the guy that recommended you, by the way. Yeah. But he mentioned
Tim used to work for me.
No, that's wicked. That's cool. The production thing, that kind of makes sense.
No, Tim used to work for me installing. Oh. He used to work at Class A Sounds when he was right out of high school. I believe he was right out of high school. He worked for me.
That's awesome. Yeah. And Brody Rogers, I think.
Yeah, Brody
he was a couple years younger than me. Great kid.
Brody worked for me. Summer job.
Hell yeah.
Detailing. You know how big Brody is. Can you see Brody out there? Yeah. Right. Detailing, because his schedule was always like off. So, because he had practice and everything else. So he just come in when he could. And it was great. It was great. Right. So I'm doing Brody's wedding this summer, actually. So awesome. Full circle, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, the opportunities that you give folks, right? Yeah. Because the one thing is, like, what I always try to do is teach my employees the fundamentals of the business. This is why I want you to do this. Mm-hmm. The thing was, and anybody would tell you, I'm gonna tell you this example, right? And you want to really drive me crazy working with me at my store, have a dirty bathroom. That's a pet peeve, okay? And bathrooms are everything. And anybody listening to this with a business, I'm gonna tell you this: if you got a dirty bathroom, just close up, because that will make or break your business. Because you can have the best customer service and the best looking counters and food come out looking great, but if somebody go into your bathroom and it looks like crap and smells like crap, that just ruined their whole mood. Right, we had a lot of females that would stay while their cars got worked on, right? And they would come out and they would say, "Man, I can't believe how clean your bathroom is."
That's wicked, yeah.
Right, because no one wants to sit on a dirty toilet.
Nobody.
Right.
Yeah.
And it sounds so frugal, but next time you go out, go into the bathroom, right? Because when you go to a restaurant, first thing you're gonna do, I'm gonna go wash my hands, right? That's gonna make or break your experience. Mm-hmm. Because you're like, damn, this bathroom looks dirty. What is the kitchen staff looking like?
That's I was in Lancaster, and like there's this like nice restaurant, or not, it didn't look nice. I forget what it's called. It was very good. We were gonna go eat sushi there, but like as we were walking up, like the side door was like trash bagged up, and I was like, wait a minute. Like, do I want to eat fucking right. Optics though. It's exactly
the optics. It's the optics, right? So it starts from the parking lot, right? Clean parking lot when somebody pull up, right? Get rid of cigarette butts. Nobody working for me smoke, but customers flick cigarettes out, right? So clean parking lot, right? Clean windows. Smell good. I always had air fresheners in the store going, okay? Bathroom. always clean, bleach, air fresheners.
Did you learn this the hard way? How did you learn all this shit? Like that it matters that your bathroom is clean and that it matters.
It mattered because I wanted to go to a clean bathroom.
That's fair. That's a good statement.
If I'm in this building 10 hours a day, I'm not trying to go sit on a dirty toilet seat if I got to go to the bathroom. Okay, I'm not trying to look down and see piss on the floor if I got to go to the bathroom. Yeah. I'm not trying to go wash my hands to clean them in a dirty sink.
It's just common sense.
It's just common sense, right? You know, so that was the first time I used to teach my staff. I say, look, if I can clean the toilet, you can clean the toilet. I 100%. Own this place.
Yeah, fuck yeah.
And I'm going there cleaning the toilet. So you can go clean the toilet, right? And it's like people are like, man, I can't believe. But when you start thinking back at it, that makes a huge difference because that's the customer experience, right? I learned that from the jump. And it's like, hey, I want this bathroom to be clean when I go in there. I don't want to go in there and sit down on the dirty toilet, right? Because I'm here. I'm living here. You know, when you work at a place, man, you own a place, you basically living there. You there 12 hours, you at your business more than you at your house. So you want a clean bathroom, you want clean floors, you want the car to be clean. And anybody ever worked for me, they tell you like, I am a stickler. Anybody listen to this and know me like, yeah, he is a stickler on this, you know, because it makes a difference. And now everybody, when they go out now, they're going to look at the damn bathrooms. Man, do I want to eat here? This bathroom look clean. This guy, I don't know about it. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. But it makes a huge difference, right? So that's one thing I used to always teach my staff. That was number one. Hey, if you go in the bathroom, grab the toilet brush, spray it, clean it, right? We used to clean like every 30 minutes. Like anybody go in the bathroom, hey man, you go in there, just grab the brush, wipe it down, clean it real quick, boom, go grab a mop. There you go, right? Because you didn't know who was coming in, right? And, you know, the other thing I try to tell my staff and teach them is business fundamentals. And I try to teach life skills, man. You know, trying to teach these guys how to balance they checks, you know, how to make their money stretch, how not to go buy BS that you really don't need, you know, how to make your money stretch for 2 weeks till your next check come, you know, just life skills on top of business skills, right? And a lot of people, and Tim would tell you, you know, I say it all the time, you got time to lean, you got time to clean. You got time to lean, you got time to clean. I learned that in high school, right? Yeah.
They say some similar shit like that at Kroger. Like you're working like the midnight 1 a.m. shift.
You got time to lean, you got time to clean, right? You know, that brush ain't going, that mop ain't going to mop itself, right? But, you know, it makes a huge difference, especially with our garage, right? We always kept our garage clean, right? Because no one wants to drop off a $100,000 Porsche in a dirty garage to get detailed.
Fuck yeah.
Right. Yeah. You know, and now you see it more and more now with social media. These guys got these lights up on the ceiling and the nice epoxy floors and the white walls, like, and they showing their window tint and detailing because they tinting $100,000 car. You're not gonna be in mom and dad's garage with a $100,000 Porsche sitting there getting vehicle wrap or tint.
Visual perception, we talked about it earlier.
It makes a difference, right? Same thing with that clean bathroom.
Kind of what you were saying at the beginning of this is like record the video for this.
Yeah,
visual
right.
perception.
It's you know, because the thing is this, right? You know, one review can make or break you, right? You know, and you want to always give somebody the same service that you expect, right? So
it's
if
like
I'm
a very reasonable.
Yeah, it's not hard, right? It's the understanding of it, and you want people to walk in and say, man, this place is clean, damn. Windows clean, right? The counter clean, the floor clean. Even when it rained, we was out there mopping the floor to keep the mud off the floor, right? Perception.
Attention to detail. Yeah.
Attention to detail. I'm not going to bring my car down and get detail if the damn carpet's dirty in this place. They can't clean their own store. Why they going to clean my car?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
So, you know, it's the business fundamentals, man. You know, and it's I learned a lot about how to really run my business working. So I only really had one job since I graduated college. Well, two jobs. Working at DPDO. Yeah. And then I worked for myself. And then when I took the job with the cruise line, that was the only job I've ever had.
Wow. That's crazy.
Right. So I worked for myself. And I was still working for myself while I was working on the cruise ship.
Yeah.
So the store was still running full time while I was on the ship.
What was it like to delegate like that? Like, did you just you had a good team or network underneath you to support that?
I had a very good team, but I had to do better as an owner.
What does that mean?
I had to set them up for success. You know, you try to do so much on your own because you just get sick of delegating and say, man, I could have did it myself, right? You know, by the time you do, I could have did it myself, right? So I had to scale back from that. So when I took this job, you know, I had to basically put everything I had in my head on paper. And I literally made a book.
Fuck,
I made an employee handbook.
Nice.
The what if something go wrong page. If something goes wrong, this is what you do.
Yeah.
Right? And I used to pay all the bills quarterly, so I pay everything up so nothing get turned off while I'm gone. You know, it had so much stuff automated. And but yeah, it was just like, all right, when I leave, I just need you to run the store. The admin is going to be taken care of. I'm going to take care of that part.
Yeah.
Right? The bills and credit card processing would do all his own. You know, but when I started working for the cruise line, I learned how to really run my business, the ultimate guest experience. So that's when I started scaling my DJ business up. I kept DJing the whole time at the store, you know, but I wasn't on it, right? It was like, you know, I can go out, make some easy money, have a good time, you know, interact with students, interact with people during their weddings, you know. It's like, but when I got ready to close the store up, I said, all right, well, now I'm at to scale the DJ business up. So now I had to make this DJ business kind of pick up the money that the store was not going to have anymore, right? Because I had that store income. I was paying myself, right? So now I'm selling the store. I'm out of the store. I'm done with that business. Now I got to make sure I can make the same amount of money, keep the same lifestyle, be able to pay my bills. So what I need to do with my DJ business, scale my
So
DJ
how have
business.
you expanded your DJ business to make up for that?
Well, one thing I learned working for the cruise line is guest experience. You talk about,
Shit, because you're managing like basically other people that are executing. Right? Yeah.
So with the cruise line, and this is a whole nother podcast. We say this for a whole nother,
cool.
right?
Okay.
We can talk 5 shows about
Recurring invite. That's my thing at the end.
Yeah, we can come back and talk about
Beautiful.
cruise ships all day. But I tell you this, right? So working for the largest cruise line in the world is an experience, okay? Have you ever been on a cruise before?
Never.
Okay, so 4,000 guests on board, 1,300 crew members. That's 1,300 staff, employees, right? 20 of us from the United States. English is most of the staff third language, right? Wow. And it makes me realize how stupid I am, right?
They're on their third language.
Yeah, I'm struggling with Spanish, right? And I've been taking it forever. And I'm sitting there talking to somebody who's speaking fluent Italian, Spanish, and English. Like, okay, right? But one ship, one family, one goal, right? Keep that ship running and keep the guests happy. Don't care where you're from, what you look like, male, female, whatever your preference is, you got a job to do. This is your job assignment. If your job is to cut onions every day, that's your job because we need onions cut every day. If your job is to keep the guests entertained, dancing, and partying, that's your job, right? So you learn how to get that guest experience because you got to keep 4,000 people happy. You can't make all 4,000 happy, but
Certainly
your goal
not,
is at least keep 60 to 7% of those people happy, right? So you learn how to delegate, how to navigate, how to create an ultimate guest experience. And my thing was, all right, I'm going to take those same fundamentals. I'm going to apply it to my life.
Yeah, fuck yeah.
I'm going to apply it to my store. I'm going to apply it to my DJing, right? How can I give my client the ultimate guest experience? So when I go out, so I had to scale my DJ business up. I say, you know what? I'm about to really hit these weddings harder now, right? Because that's one of the it's a big ticket item, right? People just don't cheap out on their weddings. You know, I can go work in a bar every night, but that's only gonna make X amount of dollars because it's, you know, it ain't much you can get out the bar, right? But when you're doing bigger events, corporate events, you know, fundraisers, stuff like that, or weddings, right? People willing to put a little more money because this is a business. Tell people it's not a hobby. This is a full-time business. I pay insurance. I got payroll.
Yeah.
This is a business.
How many employees do you have?
Right now, I got 4.
Okay.
Right, and I'm talking to a guy right now, but you know I try to keep it close to me, which is family. Right. So I try to make sure my family's getting paid first, and you know, and I got people that I just depend on to do stuff for me, and I subcontract a lot of stuff too. Right, so I bring people in, other DJs that already got their own company, and then they come sub under me. They're, you know, white label, and they just be like, oh yeah, I'm just working for this guy. Right, they put my shirt on and they working for me, get a 1099 end of the year. But you know, the thing was to how can I give a ultimate experience to my client? What would make them remember this? Like the clean bathroom, right? So what can I do? You know, And what I try to do is I think of everything as a business, as a selling point. So we got a photo booth business. Started a photo booth business almost 13 years ago.
That photo booth's cool. I've seen that.
Right.
I've seen it. I saw it at like the OU career fair.
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
like
career,
for
yeah.
business shots.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
saw
the
it,
headshots. The headshots, right.
I saw the graduation like you had and I like that it's just a free booth set up. That's a really great idea. Like a lot of people. I mean, I think one of the first things that was when I was like, "What? This guy does just do everything. What this fucking photo booth?" Like,
right.
For sure.
So the photo booth came along because I was DJing events at OU, and there was a company coming in from Columbus. I'm like, man, these people coming out and taking my money. I got to figure out how to get some of this photo booth money. And I was like, I told my wife, I said, let's get a photo booth. She was like, ah. And she was like, I was like, well, all right, you run it. I pay you to run it, right? But you pick out what you want. So she was going to all these trade shows with me. So she finally found the photo booth she liked, and she was like, all right, let's get this one. So we got it, and she'll run it, right? She'd take it out, got her work shirt, she'd go out and run it. I'm DJing, and she's running the photo booth. The money's staying in the house, right? I'm still paying her as an employee. And, every year I'm like, all right, how can I continue to scale up the photo booth, right? Because it's one of these things that people feel they don't need, but I'm a salesman.
Yeah.
You need a photo booth. No, we don't. Yeah, you do. You need a photo booth. No, you don't. Yeah, you do. Why do I need a photo booth? Let me tell you why you need a photo booth, right? So I'm looking at your shirt and it got Rocky on it, right? So I'm going to go do a Rocky, they're going to have an open house, right? They're going to have an open house up at Rocky Boots. You're going to come up there as a customer. You're going, man, they're having a big sale. Man, what's this stupid photo booth over there, right? Oh, come on over to the stupid photo booth, right? So now you come over and take a picture in the photo booth. Me being a salesman, now that photo strip is branded Rocky on there. Rocky boots, hats, whatever you got on there, right? With the Rocky website. So now you take a picture, that picture print out, you just took on Rocky's business card. Mm-hmm. So you're going to put that photo strip where at? On your refrigerator.
You can look at it all the time.
You're going to look at it. Damn, man, I need to go get me some boots, right? Man, you with your girl, say, remember that we went out to Rocky? Look at this photo, right? So it's capturing that experience. Mm-hmm. What I keep saying, it's all about the experience, right? Yeah. The perception. With graduation, they called me up, say, hey, I want to do this for graduation. I said, all right, let's try it. This was 3 years ago. I said, let's try it out. Being the person I am, I'm going to work for my money. I get a flat rate for the photo booth. We just charge for event. We don't charge per picture. We charge per event.
Oh, it's like you just charge OU and then OU has
OU, right. So
like you could do it at the high school.
Oh, so the high school, right. Anybody, right? Anybody can rent it out, right? And our goal is to make sure that we get the clients their money's worth, right? I want to make sure people, like when I do weddings, I want to make sure these photo strips match the wedding, the colors, the bride and groom's name on it, whatever, right? When I do OU events, I make sure it matches the event, matches the organization. You can send text messages out with the photos with a message, say, hey, this photo was sponsored by Rocky. Mm-hmm. Make sure you follow us at Rocky on Instagram, right? So now you get marketing. Mm-hmm. Right? When I do nonprofits, I turn the telephone number off and capture emails. So now I'm grabbing everybody's emails for that nonprofits. Hey, by the way, you pay for this photo booth. Everybody took your nonprofit home. Your name, your nonprofit, and a photo strip. By the way, here's 150 email addresses.
Wow.
Right?
They want those. They want that,
right?
Yeah.
So now when I do graduation, guess what? So all right, so you brought up graduation. So we just did graduation a week and a half ago. Mm-hmm. We had a guy called me out of nowhere. He's blowing my phone up. So who's this random number calling me, right? So say, hey, how you doing? I call him back. I was on a couple calls, and this guy's kept on. So I finally call him back. Say, hey, what's going on? He say, hey, how you doing? This is just the guys with the photo booth. I say, yeah, how may I help you? He was like, so I've been trying to call around OU all day and finally found somebody who gave me your phone number, blah, blah, blah. I was at graduation last weekend with my son. We took pictures. The guy gave us all copies. It was 6 of them in the booth. We all gave them their own 2x6 photo strip. We always try to make sure everybody take a photo strip home with them, right? But we didn't get the digital image, right? The photo didn't come to us. I said, okay. So usually if the photo don't come, somebody put their phone number in wrong. But you don't say nothing. You don't blame the kids.
Yeah.
I said, okay. All right. I say, all right, well, I'm on my way out to an event. All right, do me a favor. I said, I want to get this to you right now because if not, you won't get it till later. I know you really want these pictures because he wanted the digital image that goes via text because he can save it and then blow up individual pictures. So it's 4 pictures on there. I say, listen, take a picture of the picture you have. You have a physical copy of it? Yes. I say, okay, take a picture, email it to me. Boom. He sends me an email. I say, okay, I got the email. I say, give me a second. I'm very organized, so I already knew where to find the pictures at. I looked at it, I knew what the backdrop was. He said, it was a morning graduation. That's even better. Boom. Find it. We took 150 plus pictures, you know what I'm saying? So, all right, here you go. I think we took a total of 1,200 pictures for the weekend.
Awesome. That's awesome.
And it rained all weekend, and we still took that many pictures.
Did you just have it like up under a pop-up tent?
We was on there 20 by 20.
Yeah, okay.
You guys are 20 by 20, so we sit out there right by the entrance. So, I said, okay, well, he said, well, I really want that digital copy because I want to be able to blow them up. And I said, all right. So I'm going to do for you, I'm about to send you that digital image, but I'm about to send you each individual image. What do you mean? I say, the photo booth takes individual images. That's how it makes the photo strip. So I sent them the 4 individual images, high res. The guy was just going nuts. He was like, man, this was the best thing ever at the graduation. He was like, he said, I told everybody that I knew. I told everybody I talked to on the phone. They need to keep this going. He's like, that was the picture that we love with our son for graduation.
Yeah. And I mean, they're going to remember how many times you graduated from college, man. You know what I mean? You're going to fucking hold on to that.
Right. Exactly. And it's a family photo,
yes,
right? Because and then this is the thing about the photo booth, right? When I first started that, everybody thought it was a joke. Man, you can't make no money on that. You can't make no money on that. I'm like, all right, cool. That means you ain't going to try it because you feel ain't no money to be made on this.
Close-minded.
You're right. Don't worry about it. Cool. That means you're not going to buy one.
Yeah.
Right? So I don't got to worry about you, okay? And everybody's, oh, man, you can't be making no money on this. Like, nah, man, I ain't making no money. I'm losing money every time I think, right? Mm-hmm. Because no matter what you tell them, you can't make no money on this. So why even get the benefit of that? Why even argue with them and say, oh, yeah, man, guess what?
To prove a point? Yeah, fuck. Yeah,
nah, it's pointless, right?
Yeah.
I messed with a guy one day. I was out, and he was like, man, you must really be doing good with this photo booth, man. You guys making any money? I said, nah, man. I said, you know what? It's rough, bro. I said, every year we try to make $100,000 with this thing. And I said, man, I'm only getting to like $91,000 a year at this photo booth. He just looked at me. Ain't nowhere in the hell I'm making that, right? But he just looked at me. I say, man, if you got some tips that can help me get over that $100K mark with this photo booth, that'd be, you making that kind of money with this? I say, yeah. I said, I'm getting paid to talk to you right now. Because this guy was trying his best to belittle what I was doing, right? Because it's not a 9-to-5 job. It's not the norm. I never been part of the norm. I never had a 9-to-5 job. I had a 9 until the shit is done job, right? Yeah. But you get people, man, how's your little DJ business going? Suck, bro. It's terrible. Business slow. Well, I see you out here working all the time. Yeah, but I ain't making no money, right? Because no matter what I say to them, it's never going to be enough, right?
Yeah.
Right? Now, here's the part that sucks, okay? I love being in Athens, but it hurts you sometimes because you only can go so far because the clientele is only willing to pay so much.
Tim mentioned something like this.
Right? So you get capped on that. And it's a lot of people in town. I tell you, there's a lot of phenomenal businesses and entrepreneurs here in town who can make 100 times more money they're making if they just move to a bigger market.
Literally. Fucking went an hour north to Columbus.
Double
your prices.
Right? Double your price. Now, it comes double your issues, double your cost of living, double the crime, double the housing, double the food, all that shit,
Everything
right?
has a price.
Everything has a price, right? So you kind of take it, like, you know what? I can deal with this, But I go to conferences, and I'm sitting there talking to guys and females. I met a lady at a conference here in February. She's doing $250,000 a year with her photo booth business.
Wow.
Right? She's in Atlanta. Right? It's Atlanta.
Mm-hmm.
It's 10 million people there, I feel like. You know what I'm saying? Right? And that's just downtown Atlanta. They ain't counting the outskirts, right?
Yeah.
Talking to another lady, in Miami, $250,000, right? You're talking to DJs. I met a guy here in January at another conference. He got 10 guys working for him. He's like, he's like, I'm here at the conference just trying to see what I can do to scale my business up. I said, oh, yeah, me too. He's like, yeah, we had a good year. He said, it wasn't bad, but I know I can do better, right? And I was like, oh, really? He's like, yeah, we got 10 DJs. He's like, it wasn't bad. He's like, I don't know what you do every year. He said, but I just throw this out there. He said, we had a decent year. We did $700,000. I'm looking at him like, it's DJing.
70 grand a DJ, 10 DJs is. Yeah.
So $700,000, right? He said like $700,000 DJing. It's not photo booths. It's not anything extra, just DJing,
Mm-hmm.
right? But he was like, the next guy in my area, he's doing $7 million a year. But he's doing photo booth, he's doing video, he's doing this, right? Yeah, he's like, I'm just trying to see what I can do to get over that million mark. I'm like, shit, could I do that in Athens? The answer is probably no, right? Because the market's not here.
Yeah.
Now, what I've been doing is traveling. I got to travel to go make a living, right? And, my home base can stay in Athens, and I can drive everywhere, right? Put some miles on my car, and I can travel across the country, and I can charge a premium rate and still be affordable for these markets.
Yeah.
Right? I got guys in Columbus doing the same thing I'm doing, charging, 50% more than I am. Right? Now, the cost of living may be a little bit more, right? The venues may be a little more higher end. The clientele got better jobs, maybe willing to pay a little more money. Right? But at the end of the day, what a guy told me is say, no matter what, these brides are going to pay the same price for that dress. No matter where they at, that dress is going to be the same price. He say, so you just got to figure out what you want to do with your DJ business. So, it's Athens has its good and its bad, right? And I tell people I don't complain about stuff. I just try to see how I can change it, right? I'm not one of those people that go up to city council complaining about something. I'm going to go there and say, oh, well, you know what? I feel if we went this direction or
provide a solution, not just talk about the problem.
Right, right. Yeah. Or just point out simple stuff like, if we kind of looked at this can probably go this way, right? Because it's a thankless job. I'm on the Board of Zoning of Appeals for the Athens City.
Board of the Zoning of Appeals.
Yeah,
okay.
BZA, right? So, you can't get that set back and all. You got to come to us. If you get denied by the city code, you got to come see us. But we're there as almost a mediator. It's like, using common sense because some of the laws are outdated, right? And the city is changing a lot of laws to set, just some setbacks, some requirements for building and construction in town because they're outdated, right? But to then, we got to sit there and kind of go over stuff. So, it was one of these things like, I'm not going to talk about making a change. I'm going to try to be a part of that change by being a part of this volunteer group for the city. We don't get paid, but a group of us, we volunteer, right? So people like, man, you always talking trash. Like, yeah, but I'm backing it up because I'm putting the time in to make this change.
Yeah. Right? How did you get involved with that?
The mayor called me.
How does the mayor have your number?
Everybody got my number.
Yeah, that checks out.
It's very easy. Well, when you got a business, your business is just as strong as your employees, right? If you got a city, your city is just as strong as your community, right? What I say, these older people are aging out. They done. Most of them just want to just retire, move down south with their kids and their grandkids. Why did a lot of these kids leave town? Because they can't find a job. That was always the joke, but not a joke. I went to city council one year and I was like, they was talking about, oh man, it was something trying to open up in town. I went to city council. I said, what you guys don't realize is this. And I say, I know a lot of you up there. I say, what the problem is? Y'all sitting there putting all these red flags in front of business. I say, what people do? They go to school here. They go to college here. And they're forced to leave here because there's no opportunity for them here because you all have gatekeep so many people from coming here to open up a business. You put so much red tape in front of people. So what they do, they're forced to move away.
For sure, that is my experience growing up was like, especially in high school, that I don't want to say it's the only narrative, right? Like they were kids that were proud to be from here and that wanted to stay here and knew they were going to stay here forever. But a narrative that was pushed at us was like, to be successful, you have to get a degree and leave. Like there is no, like you either work for the university, you already are tied into a small business that you're taking over, or you're gone, right? Like there is no third route. I'm blessed that I graduated during COVID. And so like I started my job remotely from Athens, from my parents' house. Like my college lease was up. I moved back home with them. And so I started remotely there. I lived in Cleveland for 2 years and then I came back here and I don't, obviously, like, my experience is, like, I got to start remotely because of COVID, but it made me realize, like, fucking everybody could do that. Like, so then how could we bring that salary back? You know, like, it's crazy.
Right.
Like, but I agree 100% with what you're saying. That people leave because there's not an opportunity. Or they believe, like, you have to. You don't have to leave to be successful.
Yeah.
Quote unquote, what the fuck is even success? Like,
right.
What is
exactly.
that?
What is success, right? And that's when people look at me like, I can't believe you stayed in Athens. I say, I can't believe you don't want to live here in Athens.
Yeah, man.
Right? You know, because it's stress-free. Right, you can walk down the street at night and don't worry about somebody stabbing you in the back, right? Yeah. You know, and so once again, you go back to your remote work, right? So I've been a huge, you know, just going after the state, you know, working with the mayor, working with other people of trying to make sure we get broadband down here, right? You know, you hear me talk about broadband stuff, like why don't we have broadband, right? You know, so I talk to the mayor a lot about that because broadband means more opportunity for people to relocate here. Right, you know, people love to get out of the city of Columbus. They love to get out of New Albany. They love to come down here to a rural, peaceful place. The air is clean. You know, water almost clean, but still better in Columbus. But you gotta have internet. What's the biggest problem with people trying to move here and trying to buy a house? Yeah, I can go buy 50 acres outside of town for, you know, a quarter of a price of what a house costs in New Albany. But there's no internet. Mm-hmm. There's no broadband. There's not even dial-up. Right? What are you going to do? Now you got Starlink and something.
I have Starlink.
Yeah. Right. So, but before Starlink 3 years ago, it was SOL, right? Mm-hmm. All right, well, I want to quit this job. I want to move here. I want to run remote. You know, the biggest thing that happened during the pandemic was rural areas like this, kids got so far behind because, oh, yeah, we're just going to give kids hotspots, right? Mm-hmm. Let me pass out all these Verizon hotspots. Oh, there's not even cell service for the Verizon hotspot to connect to.
Yep.
Wow. Right? So now you guess what? People are sitting outside McDonald's during their
I remember that. I remember going in the planes and seeing kids with laptops in fucking McDonald's on the planes. It was fucking like,
right.
What is like when societies collapsed?
Right,
right. What's happening?
So, you know, so these are things, right? You know, and I look at these things, right? You know, once again, I'm not going to talk about it without saying, all right, what can we do, right? So I went through the Athens leadership during the pandemic, right? We did it all virtually, and that was one of the things we was talking about all the time. I kept bringing it up. I was like, you know, what can we do to help broadband? Who do we need to write? What can we do? Now you're seeing a lot of the digging going on in towns. They putting broadband through.
Spectrum just bought Nelsonville TV cable too, right?
Right. So you got that. Frontier came in and stuck at the Spectrum. Spectrum was a monopoly. Like Spectrum was charging outrageous prices because they had a monopoly, right? And that's one thing like the Edwards and Nelsonville Cable, man, they kept it real for
Jay Edwards has passed away now. Right?
Yeah,
so it's like part of why Nelsonville TV Cable got sold off.
But they kept it real for 30, 40 years, you know, the grandpa, right? You know, Movies 10, this guy's super entrepreneur. You talk about somebody really giving back to the community and not ask for much. That guy is the guy. You know, I remember talking to him. He's like, yeah, we don't make money on ticket sales. Right,
they've been $4 for fucking as long as I've been alive.
Since they've been open. Right. You know, he say, you know, our money, any movie theater make their money on popcorn and concessions, right? You know, he say most big theaters they make it's $20 to go watch a movie in Columbus, right? You still go watch the brand new movie for $4. Still get a pop. You can take your whole family there for $25.
Yeah, it's like $1, $2, $3 popcorn.
I took my family out, man, years ago in Atlanta. We go to the movie and it was like $100. I mean, I went to movies in Vegas here not too long ago, and it was like $50.
Yeah, that's crazy.
You know, it was like, holy crap. And you come back here like, man. But, you know, you look at a guy who sacrificed to keep this affordable, right, for people. Mm-hmm. And I tell people, I say, you know, people just always, I'm like, dude, this guy is giving his all to this community. You can't say nothing bad about this man. You know, he have kept tickets $4.
Yeah, and the other Athena Grand in Athens,
$5.
You would think, right? Like Athena's like kind of more central. Like, how did that go down before, whatever? But I think probably you know just that brand loyalty for sure.
Right. Well, you know, in the Athena Grand, you know, the person probably was just ready to walk away. You know what I'm saying? So,
do you know what that's turning into?
Nobody knows yet.
Yeah, Big Lots.
There's always
too?
rumors. No one knows. I mean, you know that.
Joanne's there's a lot of big space in Athens.
Well, you know why? You know why these places are going out, right?
Explain it to me.
It's called venture capitalists. You ever hear people talking about venture capitalists? They buy these businesses. You from
Like
the area, right? Private equity companies, right?
Yeah,
right.
I work in the investment industry.
Right. Yeah. So with strip marketing, it was strip mining. You from the area, right? With strip mining,
you just fucking take it all, piece it out, just buy a whole, part it out. Right? That you think that's what's happening to these Joannes and Big Lots?
That's what's happening. Go read up on Red Lobster. Right? Look at what happened to Red Lobster and how the young brother came in and saved it, right? But Red Lobster sold out. And then the people came in and say, well, Red Lobster is worth a lot of money. Not the business, but the property. So he sold off the property.
It's like the McDonald's thing. It's
the
like
McDonald's thing. So
the
people came and sold off the property to Red Lobster. So now Red Lobster got to pay rent. They can't afford to pay the rent because people raised their property up so much.
Fuck.
So you look at what happened to Big Lots, right? You look at Joanne Fabric. You look at the same people who own Big Lots has their hands in Joanne Fabric.
The strip mall? You mean
no? The actual corporation who own Big Lots. They got
it's just like under the same holding company. You're saying that was private equity. Holy shit!
Yeah, but you got to dig 20 steps down below to start seeing some of the same people touching the same things, right? So you look at these things and say, man, how's all these big companies folding like this? Mm-hmm. They're selling out, right? Toys R Us.
So like what do you, I mean, fuck, like, because I don't know.
So now you're going to go out and start looking at this stuff like, man, this is crazy.
But it's like how many jobs just in like Big Lots? Like 30, 40? What?
Yeah. I mean, and that's one thing I talk about at the city council, man. It's like, the city didn't learn. They didn't learn from the pandemic, right? You can't depend on mom to keep paying your bills, and that's Ohio University, right?
Yeah.
When that happened, OU laid off 500 people, right? They cut them jobs. Remember, they was protesting. They was doing.
I actually don't remember.
So when the pandemic happened, they started cutting jobs because OU was like trying to survive, right? If you don't got no students here, you got no money for housing, you got no food.
I mean, weren't they having financial troubles right before the pandemic?
They was having it because enrollment was down, right? So when you look at a city that majority of income come from this big job provider, it ain't really the big job provider. It's everything involved with Ohio University, right? Jobs, utilities, water, right? Just think how much money OU pay the city for water and sewer.
Fuck yeah. Okay.
Right? So now you got nobody using no water. Nobody flushing no toilets, right?
So that just echoes down through
it just trickled down, right? So now you the city like, shit, we done lost, 10% of water and sewer. What are we gonna do about the guys working at the sewer plant, right? I'm not saying that, but this is how you have to think as a person that's in business, right? Mm-hmm. It's always a cause and effect. I tell people, stop looking tunnel vision. So what's good, you got so many lazy people that's tunnel vision. They don't look at forward and backwards, right? It's great for somebody like me because that means they're lazy and I can just sit there and keep moving forward because they're not going to put the energy into it. So I always tell people come at me with a problem. I say, all right, so now we address the problem. How do we find a solution? You can yell at me all day across the counter. All right, you still yelling. How we going to fix this? What's the solution, right? People's come in the store. Oh, you guys did this. All right. Okay. Let us fix it. Blah, 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 blah. Well, do you want to fix it or not? Blah, 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 blah. You're still repeating yourself. I just said.
It's like, fucking help me help you.
When do you want to fix this, right? So we had a lady come in. I backtrack. I'll come back to OU. So we had a lady come in the store one time. So we tinted windows, right? You cannot do a perfect window tint job. It's just it's film, it's hands, it's glass. If the glass got dirt you can clean it, but if any flaws, it's gonna show up in the tint. Okay. So lady comes in, nice young lady. She come in, got her brother with her. Drops her car. We just tinted the car a week before. So this thing got dirt and bubbles in it. Well, we gave people a form, say, hey, give it 14 days for the soap to dissolve with the tint and then
like rolling down the window.
Yeah, don't roll the window down for 3 to 5 days. And then, it's a process, right? Everybody, same process, no matter where you go get it, right? They come in 7 days later, having a fit. So the woman, she's like, yeah. So then, her brother started getting mouthy. he goes on talking about my window tinters, my window tinter out there listening. Your guy wasn't so lazy and did it this way and did it this way, blah, 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 and then and I'm like, it was literally one window, right? We just gonna fix one window. That's all it takes. We just could put the tint off, got it done, and you could have got it done in an hour, right? He out there yelling for 15 minutes, right? You guys took advantage of my sister. I'm like, sir, everybody in my family is women. I don't take advantage of women. I don't want nobody taking advantage of my mom or grandma, my sister, right? We're not that kind of place. We got clean bathrooms, right? So he goes on. So they go over to Bob Evans, my window terms, like, you know what? We're not gonna make these people happy. Give them their money back. Pulls the car in, strips all the tint off, right? Now we losing money because we lost money on film, labor, right? Pull it back outside. She comes back from Bob Evans, having my window tint. Well, your brother came here when you walked out, and he came in, just laid into my window tinter, calling us lazy and F this, F that, blah, blah, blah. And I said, we can't make him happy, which means we'll probably never make you happy. So here's all your money back. Here's a receipt. Sign this receipt. Thank you for your business. So she's sitting there about to bawl, like about to cry, because I just wanted the one window fixed. I said, yeah, we was going to fix that. But your brother's sitting here calling my window tinter lazy this, lazy that. I say, ma'am, I'm going to be honest with you. We don't have time for that. We honor our warranty, but we can never make your brother happy, which means he's going to stay in your ear, which means you're going to be calling us every week, trying to find something that we didn't do. And it's not worth our time.
Yeah.
Go to Columbus. Pay him double the price. Take your brother with you. Sorry. Right? Mm-hmm. So when you look at those kind of examples, right, you come back to Ohio University, right? So it goes back to Ohio University. When you have the biggest job provider and when they would call students customers, right? If you don't have no customers coming to your store, how do you keep your store open, right? Before the pandemic, enrollment was down across the country, not just Ohio University, across the country, right? Most people can't afford to go to college because it's become too expensive, right? Most people don't have no need to go to college, right? Because they can go get a vocational or go get an OnlyFans, right? Right? Yeah. So how do you keep customers coming to your business? You got to figure something out. But till you keep your customers coming to your business, you got to let go staff while you reevaluate your business, right? So when the pandemic happened, OU was already going through this enrollment drop, right? So with that enrollment drop, you saw business adjust their staffing uptown. So that's why you can't find nothing to eat uptown Athens Monday through Wednesday before 4 o'clock.
Yeah.
Because people wasn't uptown eating. Right? Mm-hmm. So you go look at this, right? Now you look at what Ohio University has done as a school/business. You don't need to go eat uptown. You can go eat. I can go to campus right now and go get me a sandwich. Right? If Baker's open, I can go on campus to eat, right?
But didn't they do like flex like points where it's like you could use some right?
So now,
because I see what you're saying. That's like you're fucking not only like business, you're stealing. Right? That I don't. Stealing's not the right word.
But you now took away this clientele that these businesses was uptown dependent upon, and say, hey, we're not making no money on this education because students aren't coming to school. So we need to make sure when they do come here, they keep their money on campus. Mm-hmm. This is just me as a business person. I don't know who's thinking this at the university, but this is on an outsider perspective. If I'm running a business, how can I keep these customers in my doors all day long?
They force you to be in a dorm and buy a meal plan. If you're not,
it's required. It's required by every school. You got to stay 2 years on campus, right? In most state colleges,
unless you have the commuter thing,
right? Unless you're commuter thing, right? Because you're from the area, right? But anybody else, you got to at least do 2 years on campus unless you get exemption, right? So I got 2 years to squeeze as much money out of you for housing and meals, right? Well, I don't want you going to Chipotle every day. I'm gonna put our own burrito place on campus and allow you to use your points. Mm-hmm. Then let me throw a couple food trucks on there too. Mm-hmm. So now we're gonna give you convenience that you can use your card. You know what? You don't have a car, you can't go to a grocery store. Let's put a grocery store on campus.
Jefferson Market, yeah.
Jefferson Market, right? Right, yeah, man. We don't have a
There's like a little sub store in there too.
So we don't have a Raising Cane's or Chick-fil-A, huh? let's put a chicken place on campus in Shively, right? Man, people uptown drinking coffee. Man, you know what? Let's put a coffee shop in the library.
Holy shit.
Now, the reason I know about these locations, hanging out with Tim Martin, because Tim did the design work for Earl's Chicken Coop on campus. Cool. And the library coffee shop is called La Biblioteca, which is Spanish for library. So you have a full service coffee shop in the library.
That's cool. I went to that coffee shop.
So once again, as a business owner,
they have some shit figured out, man.
Yeah. All right. So you go to Walmart, right? You think you can't never find stuff all the time because they move stuff around to keep you looking for it.
Yeah, for sure. Kroger's notorious
same
for
way,
that,
right?
Yeah.
Notorious for that, right? Keep you in there longer. So let's keep people on campus longer. Let's give them an option. Hey, you know what? Your parents, hey, just buy this Flex 20 card. They can go get coffee. They can get sandwich. They can go get this. They can go get pizza, get hamburgers. All here. They don't got to leave. Right?
And that's fucking half the town for a small business. You know what I mean? Like the university's half the town.
And the university has a goal. They got to keep people employed. They got to keep their lights on. Ohio University is a business.
Yeah.
Tell people college is a business. Everything's a business. You have trustees like board members of a Fortune 500 company. All right, we need to be in the black, right? So I tell people, why do you think they call Black Friday Black Friday? Because it's the first day of the year. It's the first time of the whole year that a business is actually in the black. It's the first day of shopping. That's why they call it Black Friday.
I never put that together.
It's the first time in the black. The whole 11 months they're in the red. They're only in the black right after Thanksgiving because that's when they spend the most money.
Yeah.
Right.
And then Tim talked about how like that cools off. Like January, February, March are really hard for small businesses uptown because of that kind of like splurge of spending and then
because people try and pay off their debt. Yeah. Right. So it rolls down. Right?
Which is like kind of an independent problem. Like maybe fucking do a little better with spending.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the goal is keeps people spending money. We are a capitalist economy, right? That's a whole nother podcast, right? It's we are the biggest spender in the whole world, right? The stuff that's going on right now, we buy the most stuff from China.
Like the tariff shit.
Yeah. We buy the most stuff. We are the biggest spender. We don't manufacture anything in this country anymore.
Yeah, right?
Where's it coming from?
Nowhere.
Right.
Nowhere in the country. Yeah.
Nowhere in the country, right?
But I'm very ignorant to a lot of this like politics shit, but it's like they are hoping that this makes the manufacturing jobs come back.
Yeah, it will, but we won't see it till the next administration.
Yeah,
we won't see it. We won't see it for 5 years.
Gotcha.
Right.
I mean, shit takes time for sure.
Well, Intel got pushed back to 2030.
Like the Columbus plant?
Yeah.
What do you mean?
Yeah, we're going to start manufacturing chips. All right, we're going to get all this money from the Biden administration, right? That we're going to do this chips because we lost our butt during the pandemic. No chips was made here. We couldn't get no cars out because everything was made over in Taiwan or China, whatever, right? We're going to do a chip manufacturing. We're going to give Intel all this money to put this place here in the States, okay? That was 21, 22. Intel just announced they won't maybe be open to 2030. So you fucking thinking,
where's all that fucking money? Like, what was it doing? For what? Where did they arbitrage?
Right. So once again, right? So now you got all these people. We want these car manufacturers to come back here. We want people to build a plant here. All right. So how long is it going to take BMW to put a plant here in the United States? All right, we're going to put tariffs on BMW. Coming out of Germany, we're going to charge them this. Or we're going to get a BMW. It's going to cost you this much. All right, we're going to put a BMW plant here in the United States. All right, great. We're going to commit to a BMW plant. When is it going to be open? I don't know, but we're going to buy some land. We're going to think about starting on it, right? It's the waiting game. I'm going to buy this land. I'm going to go pave it. I'm going to go do this. I'm going to put one bulldozer on it, and I'm going to make sure.
Do you think that's to appease them, to make them think that they're going to push manufacturing back here?
Of course. Wouldn't you?
Yeah, I guess.
I mean, if you can kick the can down the road to the next guy getting an office or next female getting an office, because it may change in 4 years, right?
Because they probably don't want to do that because it is probably going to cost more money. It's like back to the capitalism thing. Yeah.
See how that worked?
Yeah.
It's trickle down, man.
Yeah.
Was it Reagan? Trickle downomics. Reaganomics. Trickle down. Everything trickle down or trickles up. Right? So you got to think about all that. And I'll tell people, I'm a critical thinker, 10 steps forward, 10 steps backwards, right? I can't look at something directly. I got to look at left and right, right? You got to see, all right, what's coming and what's going. If I do this, this is going to happen, right? So for me as a business,
cause and effects,
right? So even with a business, I got to look at if the economy is doing what it's doing, how much money people willing to spend on a photo booth or DJ services or video production or video editing, right? You know, had the same thing with the store. If the economy is in the tank, how many people going to do anything to their car? How many people can afford to do detail on their car? How many people can afford to get their windows tint, right? Groceries go up, everything go up. How many people can afford to keep a certain lifestyle? So then I got to say, all right, how can I afford to pay my bills? Do I need to leave Athens, travel, go to these jobs? Like taking this on the road, right? When you tap out on people you're going to interview, what you going to do at your show?
It's good. I mean,
you got to get people to fly in, or you got to go to them.
I guess that structurally makes sense. I don't think I'll ever run out of people. I think like
can't never say never.
Yeah, that's true.
Can't never say never.
Yeah.
Right? You know, but you always got to be thinking 10 steps ahead. All right, where can I find the next guest at? How can I find somebody that's really going to drive it home for this show? Right? I didn't hit all the heavy hitters in Athens. You know, what else can I do? Who can I bring in from Columbus? I got a guy in Cleveland. It's a guy in Cincinnati I went to school with, right?
I'm already hitting them up.
Yeah. Right. You're already hitting them up, right? Because you're already thinking ahead, right? Okay. This guy does this, but he's here. What can I do to get him here, right? Do I need to go to him?
Yeah, a lot of it's planting seeds. Like right now, they just be like, hey, man, I know you got family in Athens or whatever. Like, hey, if you're ever coming back through, let me know when you're here.
But you're thinking ahead of it, right? To keep what you're doing going, right?
Yeah.
See, look at the business plan, right? How can you make this pay for your lifestyle, make it affordable, make it interesting, make it worth your time to keep doing this, right? What's the plan, right? What's the 10-year plan? Like everything I do, I set plans, I set goals, I lay it out, right? Vision boards and everything else. Sorry, what's the goal for this? What can I, like my DJing, I was like, all right, what can I scale up for my DJing? When would I get to the point that I am unaffordable for the person in Athens? That was 3 years ago. I had no choice but to scale my prices up, right? So now I'm in Hocking Hills almost every weekend because that clientele is willing to pay for what I need to get.
Yeah.
Because if
a lot of that's out of town though. A lot of Hocking Hills is
out of town.
So you're not. It's not truly a Southeast Ohio market rate that you need to meet. That is out of town, and
that is it.
I've heard a lot of chirp around the city from people talking about the development of Hocking Hills. Like I heard an insurance agent talking about how the frustrations with these like all this out of town money coming in and how that's like kind of gentrifying the area, pricing people out that have been there for their whole life. Like now they can't afford their fucking property taxes because it's $1.7 million compound was just put in. Like,
of course.
That started during the pandemic. That's fucking scary because it's like Athens is the next, right? Like you're coming down from there. Maybe we're already full, but
Athens is already there. You know, you'll hear me at City Council talking about property taxes, right? Talking about income taxes. I mean, we're being micro gentrified without you even realizing it.
Didn't we just decline that property tax, or not property tax, but income tax?
Right?
We just declined it
by 53%, right? Yeah. But it could have went the other way, right? You know, the thing is this: that when you start looking at the average income in Athens is only $35,000 to $40,000, right? And we OU throws it off a little bit, Quadell and some other place, but you know the average person's working in a small business, right? They're working at a Walmart, they're working at a mom and pop shop, they're working at a heating and cooling place, a small business, right?
But in those statistics, are they also counting that part-time college employee that's making fucking $10,000 a year? It's like how many of those it's like,
but not as much as. The thing is, when they do the census, are students here or are they not? Right? You got to look at when the last.
Isn't that the voting thing too? Isn't there?
The voting thing. That's a whole nother. Oh man.
Yeah, my bad. I didn't mean to open can of worms.
Yeah. But that's a whole nother thing. But the thing is this, right? And I say this, what I'm telling you is not what I haven't said on TV.
Yeah.
Right. Doing city council, and I said it last in January. And it's like, we're digging a hole for people here on fixed income. So you retire, you 60, right? You're ready to retire. You got your Social Security. You getting, because you only can make so much money a year before you got paid. So you only can. I'm only making $35,000 a year, right? You're making $35,000 a year in your retirement, okay? And you got your 401k, whatever else investment you have. So let's say you're maxing out at $50,000 a year as a retiree in Athens, your property taxes is $6,500 a year.
It's over 10% of your fucking yearly income.
That ain't counting
For like
groceries.
a fucking paid off home.
for a paid off home.
Holy
right?
shit. Yeah.
Right. For a paid off home. Now you're a widow, so now that's cut in half now. So now you only getting $30,000 a year because now you're a widower, right? So still, and guess what? A new property tax passed, right? Because they need more money for the schools and more money for this, which is fine, it's understandable. But now you went from $6,500 to $6,900 a year. But your retirement hasn't changed. But your cost of living has, even though your home is paid off. Now you're talking about Hocking Hills, so the average house is selling for $400,000. So now your house is worth more, right? But that means you got to pay more property taxes on it.
Yeah.
So you basically start pricing people out and say, you know what? Why don't you just go move into a retirement home since you can't afford your home no more, right? And then
I can't afford the home. It's fucking, you got, again, you
get
priced
out.
You're
priced out. Now what happens now is when you get priced out to the point, who come buy this? The people you hanging out with, your venture capitalists.
It's the only people that can fucking afford it.
The only people can afford it, right? So go look up how many rentals BlackRock own and Vanguard. They own 33% of all rentals in the entire United States right now.
Yeah.
2 companies. 33%.
It's not a small amount.
No. So now they saying, hey, guess what? Rent just went up, right? Now
that fixed income didn't come out. Yeah, man.
We buy your house, but we're gonna charge you rent.
Yeah.
It's a lot, man. That's 10 other podcasts right there, right?
Yeah.
But you think about all these different things that, so these are the things that I bring it back as a small business. You have to keep that in mind, right? Because can you afford to pay rent on a location that the building property taxes went up? Because you think that owner's going to eat that property tax?
Yeah.
It's going to get passed down to who? The renter.
Yeah.
Right? So I'm going to open up a sandwich shop uptown. I'm going to have to pay $4,000 a month for rent, plus insurance, plus payroll tax, plus payroll.
How many fucking sandwiches do you have to sell to cover that fucking overhead, dude? Like and you're not gonna have students here for fucking 3 months of the summer, dude. You got $12,000 fuck $12,000 of sandwiches. Like how many? You know what I mean? Like that's this whole fucking room with the sandwiches. How does that make sense for somebody? Like Tim Martin's talking about like the Uptown location. It's just like fuck. How does it like?
How many
small
t-shirts you gotta
business?
sell?
Yeah.
How many coasters you got to sell?
Yeah.
Right. To cover the people you need to pay, and then everybody wants $15 an hour, right? Because that's a livable wage, right? So where'd that get passed on to? Passed on you.
Like the business owner, you're saying?
Would get passed on to you, the consumer, the business owner.
The
business owner. The business owner
yeah.
only gonna hit their bottom line. That's why I tell people like, I was never against the $15 an hour. I was against a mandatory $15 an hour across the country because we can't say we're going to pay somebody the same price in Athens as somebody in Columbus, Cleveland, San Francisco, New York.
For sure.
Right?
Yeah.
People are making $20 in San Francisco and still homeless.
For sure.
Right? So you go out to San Fran, you're paying $9 for a cheeseburger because the people at McDonald's making $20 an hour. So we still got to keep this bottom line because we still got to pay rent, we got to pay insurance, we got to pay these taxes, this tax. And now we got to pay these people more. So our bottom line just went up 25%. So now we got to raise our food up 25%.
Just like the tariff thing. Right?
So,
it's like, I'm going to fucking pay $7,000 in this tariff. Guess what?
Yeah, so guess what? It's going to get passed on to you, right? So at the end of the day, are you really making $20 an hour? Right? And I'm going to leave you on this. Once again, it ain't a conspiracy if it's true, right? And I don't care who listens to this. Y'all can fight me on this. Right?
7 people are going to listen to it.
You never know. You can fight me on this. Okay. So I'm going to raise your hourly up from $7.95 to $20.95, right? So you're making this much more money, right? Man, I'm making good money, but this company got to fix that because they got to charge more, right? But you still making, $13 more than what you were, right? Times 40. So you're making another $430 more every 2 weeks, right? Did I do the math? Yeah, we'll figure it out later, right? So anyway, so you're making another $400 extra a month, right? Every biweekly. That's $800 more you're making, right? Now you're above the poverty level, okay? So hear me out. Now you're above the poverty level, so now you don't qualify for any food stamps, any health care.
Any housing,
okay? But guess what? Now the government is taxing that income. So who's winning on this? So now you just lost all your government benefits, right? Because you were just under poverty level. So if you got a kid, you can get you EBT card, you can get your WIC, right?
Yeah.
So I'm going to force Walmart to take this person that was making this and still able to get health insurance because Walmart wasn't paying health insurance, right? Because we're here, right? So now you're just above that threshold that you've lost all your benefits.
But instead of the government subsidizing a portion of your thing, now they're taking money back from you. That's fucked. Yeah. You know, I knew a teacher that also coached, and they declined payment for coaching because it would have brought their household income above an amount. So I saw those mental gymnastics happening, and it blew my fucking mind. I couldn't imagine. Also too, just kind of relating to that person. I couldn't imagine that. But I don't know. I don't have a child. I don't have whatever.
10 steps ahead, 10 steps backward, right?
Yeah, dude. It was just so far from what I had thought, but it made sense. I mean, I had fucking 2 other mouths. If I had a wife and child to feed, I would probably maybe that's prideful. I mean, I don't know.
But then it puts you in a different tax system,
certainly.
Right?
Yeah.
So now instead of you paying 7% tax, now you're paying 13% tax on your total income because that extra $10,000 then put you in a different tax bracket, right? So you wonder why people aren't motivated to go work.
Yeah.
There's no benefit.
Yeah, I heard
I'm not saying that in a bad way, but if you're sitting there with 2 kids and the government's subsidizing your health care and child care and your food, I'm going to go get me a full-time job. I'm going to lose all that. So that's why you saw a lot of people like, man, it's better for me to just stay home because I'm losing my ass on child care, right? Child care costing $1,200 to $1,500 a month, right? My little sister, I love her to death, man. And I try to talk her off the edge. You know, she's done everything right. I mean, she couldn't have a more perfect life than what she have right now. I mean, on paper, it's phenomenal, right? Financially, it sucks because she did what she was told to do. Go to school, get a degree. She wanted to be a teacher all her life. All right, I'm going to be a teacher. Now I got to get a master's degree, get a teacher. Now I got a teacher certificate. Now I'm getting in more debt, okay? If you go teach in a low-income school, we'll waive your school loans, right? No. She's been trying, right? She did her time, right? Now, so married, right? Husband's in the Navy, in the armed forces, okay? Good rank in the armed forces. Got 2 kids now. 1-year-old is my little nephew. It's his first birthday, his first year. So he 1 year old today, and he got 2-year-old, right? Childcare is $1,500 a month. They're lucky that he's in the Navy, and the Navy is helping offset this childcare. But if he had a full-time job and she's out there teaching, they still couldn't afford to eat because they were paying almost close to $20,000 a year in childcare.
Yeah, shit like this makes me want to just fucking abort society and just fucking homestead and
But you're seeing that become more popular, right? And sucks, you know. So you look at all this stuff, and what I tell people is this, right? It's up to you at your generation to say, hey man, why is this happening, right? Now I'm at the point I already know I ain't gonna see no Social Security. Right? This shit I'm never gonna see it. They keep moving the goalposts and the field goal every.
It's a Ponzi scheme to me.
It's a Ponzi scam, right? I'm glad you feel that way.
Yeah,
fantastic.
For sure.
I feel the same way, right? You know, and as I tell people this all the time, you know, It ain't a conspiracy. It's true. Right.
Truth also doesn't need a resume, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So you look at it and say, hey, why won't they let school loans go away? School loans is
it's like the only thing you can't bankrupt out of, right?
Yeah, it's a documentary. Go find it if they haven't burned the tape. It came out a couple years ago. It's called Lone Wolves. Lone Wolves, like loan, like bank loan.
LONE. Yeah. Oh, LOAN.
Yeah. Lone Wolves, like wolves, right? And it was a documentary on MSNBC, and they literally found the dude who put that one thing in the bill that you couldn't get rid of.
Student loans. Yeah.
Student loans. Yeah. It was like in '96. Yeah.
It's like that motherfucker had something. Yeah, dude. Because it's like who owns that, right? It's like that. Isn't it just private, like rich people that own the debt?
But they keep selling it off.
So like
the government used to have it.
Yeah, I know because I took loans out with Great Lakes, and then all of a sudden, like I just nailed that. Like I just got an email. The other thing is like when I first was in college, like every semester you could just like go to my account. Yeah. Oh, you need to get out of here?
No, it's good.
I
told you I like to talk.
Yeah, nice. Every quarter or whatever semester, I could go log into my account, and I would just have that fucking one loan balance, right? So like one loan for $6,700. Now, when I log into my account, there's like a $12 lot, a $52 lot, and I'm like, what the? And it's so then it's like I used to have just this one loan. Yeah, like at 2.5%, and now there's like 35 lots of this one $6,000 loan, and I don't, and it's like that. Like I can't even tell you how. So I just don't understand how that happened, but. Yeah, so something's fucky with that.
Well, just think, if you are a company and you can make 1% on that loan and you got 100,000 of them just like that, you think you're not going to have enough money to give somebody at the congressional level to make sure that shit never changes?
Yeah.
Hey, man, hey, we're going to be doing this seminar in Puerto Rico. Why don't you come see us?
Mm-hmm. Right. Little speaker fee.
Yeah, speaker fee. Why don't you come? Why don't you come speak? Yeah. Bring your wife with you, right? So you look at all these things, right, and they get whitewashed, right? Because you talk about it, you crazy, right? I always tell people, why you never see any negative press about the pharmaceutical companies? You would never see that because the pharmaceutical companies is what's paying that person on TV to talk about everything else but them. Mm-hmm. When you look up and see what these reporters make, the talking heads, as I call them, they don't go to the fields anymore, right? If they do, they fake. Like Anderson Cooper got called out multiple times from act like he in a flood and fucking somebody got a fan blowing it. You know what I'm saying? You know, but you look up what this guy makes, right? How much money he's making a year, right? How the hell CNN paying that guy this? Well, it's off advertising. Right? It's off marketing. Every commercial to come on between every news segment is what? A pharmaceutical company.
So like something crazy. It's a very large portion of total ads.
You look at that, right? You look at the ad there. So you say, all right, well, of course they're not going to talk about their competitor. I always tell people this. You would never see nothing negative about Walt Disney World on ABC because they all own each other. ABC owns Disney. Disney owns ABC. ESPN is owned by Walt Disney, ABC, right? You're never going to see nothing bad about that. Any scandal that happened on ESPN, they always got to kick a dude off the air because that's a family-owned network by Walt Disney. We can't have adultery on our network, right? Because they got an image, and they got people to pay, right? So you start looking at all these different things to kind of go and correspond with each other, man. But you got to look at school loans. You know, the issue right now is what I worry about is how much longer do we have in Athens as a city to remain a thriving city if enrollment shall drop? We've been blessed that enrollment went up, right?
Yeah, you're saying what happens to the rest of the town if OU
if something happens like the pandemic again. Let's not say the pandemic. What happened if OU goes to what it was in 2020 and 2021? Enrollment had dropped, right? Used to be a point you couldn't get an apartment uptown because they'd be leased out for 24 months. Well, guess what? When you see now leasing on an apartment,
that's fucking true. You'd have to sign a fucking apartment like a year ahead. Yeah. Like it's like literally had to sign August 22 to get in like
24. Right. Right. You want to live on top of Court Street Coffee? Oh, it's a 3-year wait.
The subway apartments. That's fucking like legendary.
Right. Yeah. Oh, you're a freshman. Oh, you better apply for that, right? So when you
So
ride.
but why are the rents still so high if it's fucking getting harder for them to like rent these things? I mean, are they coming down slightly? It's
because property taxes.
They don't have a choice.
Yeah, property taxes go up. I mean, you're only gonna eat it. If property taxes go up $500 every year because a new levy passed, right? All right. So $500 and you got well, it's like how they sell it is they put a percentage, they don't put a dollar amount. Oh, it'd be $100 per $100,000 of the property. So if you're sitting there with a building that's valued at $700,000, you got an extra $750 slapped onto your property. Now let's say 3 levies pass and all of them got the same requirements, right? So you got 3 levies, and they say, oh, it's only going to cost you $100 per 100,000 value of your property, and 3 levies pass that same restriction. So do the math, right? If you got a $700,000 piece of property, and 3 levies pass with that same requirement, now your property tax went up $2,100 on top of property tax.
So what's the fucking property tax money going to?
Pay for you got. The issue is people vote on shit without looking at what they voting on.
Yeah, like why the fuck are there so many, like the roundabouts, right? Like everyone's pissed off about all these roundabouts. Like,
so some of the stuff the city gets subsidized from the state, right?
Okay.
Are
they just playing the same game though? Like fucking spend more than the budget so that next year's not cut. Like it just seems like that's everywhere.
Well, right. Well, you get restrictions on stuff. Like East State got wide. Remember East State got paved and everybody was crying about East State. They put the bike lanes in. Well, that was part. Well, so East State put these bike lanes in, right?
Mm-hmm. Oh wait, it actually wasn't that long. I was alive.
Yeah, 3-4 years. So but for them to get that paved, they got this grant money that required them to put bike lanes in. So, all right, you got to play the game. All right, the state going to give you money, and all this is public knowledge, right? It's in the newspaper, right? But when you look at all this stuff that come along with it and say, all right, well, where does this money go? Well, what levy did you pass, right? So the libraries, right? They needed money for the libraries, right? So guess what? All right, a levy passed for libraries. Great. You want to support the libraries? Fine. All right, children's services, right? That's county, right? So that's money for the county. Like the high school, they want to renovate. They want to build a new high school, but they came up on the shortfall, right? So we already had a levy passed for the elementary school. They got redone, right? Now they want to expand or rebuild or remodel a high school. Well, they still need another $1 million. Had to pass a levy for that, right? So these levies come and people say, oh, yeah, it's for a good cause. But if you pass 3 of these levies with the same restrictions, that's going to cost you $100 per $100,000 of your house,
They're double dipping and people aren't paying attention to that. They're just like, oh, this is which they're not. They're not even going, oh, that's going to raise my shit $300. But they didn't. It got 9 because they did it to you 3 times on different votes. That's fucking that's kind of crazy. Yeah.
Right.
That's pretty fucked.
But if you look at it, who is really doing it to is you. Because how can you go buy you a house and property tax is going to be $6,500, right? So you got a mortgage, right? And now you got now since the housing collapse, your mortgage has everything rolled into. So your housing insurance, everything get escrowed, your insurance, your property taxes, and everything get put in that mortgage. So your mortgage may be $1,200, but after you escrow the other 2 things, now you're paying a $2,000 mortgage, right? But guess what? If that property tax go up, now you're paying a $2,300 mortgage. And if it go up another year, so you got a 20-year mortgage on your home. By the time you get that paid off, you're paying $4,000 a month for a mortgage for something to start off at. Now, your mortgage percentage hasn't changed, but the property tax has escrowed and said you got people going homeless right now because they bought houses during the pandemic for the low. Now, the neighborhood is coming up, getting gentrified. Their mortgage has went up, not because of the bank, is the home value has went up, which means a property tax went up, which means a mortgage has went up.
Is that home value true though? Like if you try to sell that bitch for that, like who's buying it? Because I think that's like you back to your like 33% ownership of all the rentals and shit. It's like if they hold on to that and don't sell it, it's like, yeah, you could tell me it's worth fucking $4 million, but to the point, like who could go buy that house? The only person that could go buy that house is like somebody, an institutional investor.
Right.
Yeah, man.
Right.
So is it really worth that, or is it like it's kind of like fuck, dude? But it's like it's good for the establishment for it to be overpriced for you because now it's like I'm gonna get the property tax and that's kinda,
That's how that works.
That's a little pessimistic. I should be more optimistic, but
so now you run into an issue like yourself. Do you have any motivation to go buy a house right now?
Thankfully, I live in a mortgage-free home.
But
I would never go. I mean, I
Right.
would like to own rental properties, ideally.
Right.
Like, it's just like something.
But
you
if
grow,
you coming out of school, would you want to go buy a house right now?
I probably couldn't.
You probably couldn't.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, fuck my desire. Like, it's just,
You probably couldn't, right?
Yeah.
Because now you paying a school loan that's been sold 5 times, that's been pimped out to 5 different people to get a percentage added on every time it get moved around, right? To the point you don't know what the hell you even paying for anymore, right? So now you ride through, you go up 33 to Columbus, look at all the rental properties coming up, the condos. How many people you went to school with aren't married yet, but they got roommates, they friends they went to school with, because that's the only way they can afford to live where they living at.
It's crazy that you asked that, because I'd say most of the people that I do know like that are in bigger cities, like living with a couple roommates. But then the people that are in this area, or say even in like another small town, like do kind of either like rent something themselves, or maybe like their significant other in themselves like kind of has something. But it is the people in the biggest cities that are kind of.
But then you got them and their significant other in the same debt, same college debt, right? Paying the same bills.
Yeah.
To 5 different companies. Damn, can we afford a house? Shit, we can't afford our school loans. We can't afford to go buy eggs. We got to put $5 worth of gas in our car, right? You look at all this stuff, and it's like, it's crazy.
Yeah.
And it's like, people need to wake up, right? And it's like, you got to start looking at a bigger picture, but it's hard to do that when you got distractions in your face.
For sure. But like fucking when you are trying to figure out how to fucking make your check go another 2 weeks, or fucking like an unexpected $500 expense. You know what I mean? Like that's a problem for.
Oh man, I can't afford to buy a new car, so I keep getting my used car fixed.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. Guess what? Now that's an expense you weren't expecting. And it hurts, right? Because what people don't realize is that we're killing ourselves as a country, because we're making the American dream unattainable. The American dream was, hey, go to college, get a degree, get a house, white picket fence, 2 kids and a dog, buy a house, live in a house, mortgage that house, send your kids to college off the mortgage from the house that's paid off, use that as equity, blah, 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 and it just go through, right? You die, you pass the house on to your kids then keep rolling over. Now you got fucking death taxes and everything. So now you got to pay capitalist gains if your parents leave a house, if it's not in a trust or in the state. And
it's the game.
It's the game.
That's the game.
Right? But why these laws keep happening? Who keep making these laws? Who's not changing these laws?
Yeah.
Who keep adding restrictions to these laws?
Regulation, man. Regulation.
Yeah, but you got 1% of the country. You got 1% of our population running 99% of the country, right? You look at some of these people that's super liberal, but have conservative values,
like
right? Like, oh yeah, everybody should have
so many people in Athens,
right? Well, you say, well, I feel that everything is just, we should be this way, but you got 8 houses, bro.
You're financially conservative. Don't lie to me. Yeah, come
right?
on.
You listen to some of these senators on TV, like, but you start looking at their bankroll, like, so you make $100,000 a year, but you're a multimillionaire. What are you doing that I'm not? Yeah. Right. So, but these are things you got to ask these questions, right? You got to sit there and say, man, for me, as somebody over 40 now, I'm on a downslide right now. So my goal is like, how the hell can I be able to afford my property taxes in 20 years, right? Can I even afford to live in a home that I'm living in 20 years? Or am I going to be outpriced and I'm going to have to sell my house and go live in a rental somewhere, right?
Which is what they want, right? It's like that's you're going to own nothing and be happy.
It's a game of Monopoly, right? Yeah. I'll go back to the bank, right? So you got to sit there and start thinking like, man, what do I do, right? So now they're talking about trying to get rid of property taxes across the state, right? So Rob DeSantis, the Florida governor, right? Now he's pushing getting rid of property taxes, right? So you have Vivek Ramaswamy. Yeah. So when he announced he's going to run for governor of Ohio, first thing he said, hey, I'm going to try to get rid of property taxes.
I didn't know Vivek announced that.
Yeah, like after him and Elon fell out with Doge, he said, well, I'm just going to part ways because I'm going to run for governor for the state of Ohio, right? Because he's in Cincinnati. right? Would he win the state of Ohio? Who knows, right?
Cincinnati, isn't J.D. Vance from Cincinnati?
J.D. Vance, Cincinnati, right? Man? Yeah, right. You know, so didn't know them two went to college together too.
Oh, yeah, small world.
Yeah.
What do you know?
You know, and J.D. Vance's wife is Indian, and Vivek is Indian, right? See how these circles run?
Okay.
The 1% all hang together, right? You see, you got to look at things. You look 10 steps forward, 10 steps back, right? You start seeing these things. Right? So you start putting these things in perspective. You say, all right, why do I really want to own a home if I'm going to forever keep having to pay a mortgage? When your mortgage now is the price of what rent will cost you. So imagine you got you a...
And the point used to be that like a mortgage was maybe less expensive.
Yeah, right. Now somebody your age have no motivation to go get a home.
With like the risk, you know what I mean? Like fucking replacing a hot water tank. Why would I do that? If the mortgage and the rent's the same thing, do I want to be on the hook for this liability? It's like kind of with the like cars thing, like the leasing. Like, because everyone would always say like rich people lease and it's like, like they don't buy. But like it's like because they could afford the expenditure. Like leasing doesn't make sense. Like I should buy this fucking car and keep it, but you want me to lease it just to like
I was that guy.
Yeah.
I was that guy, right? I just buy all my cars, depreciate them for 3 years, try to sell it, lose my ass. So what I started doing, I started leasing. Start putting under the business name. Lease under the business, right? If you look at every lease term, it's the same amount of time you can depreciate your car. So 3 years depreciation on your tax on your car, 3-year lease, 36-month lease, right? If you got good credit, shit, it's cheaper than lease than buying.
So you're always under warranty, you know? Yeah.
Always under warranty, right? You know how many miles you're driving, right? You know what you got to do. Lease it.
Yeah.
Right? So, but you look at all these things are put in place for certain groups. Tell people, I don't give a shit how much money you got. If you got bad credit, you got no money.
Access to it. Yeah.
Access to it. You got to have access to capital, right? So it's a lot to go into. And these are things, you know, that you have to look at as a business owner on how to make your business work and what you need to do, right? You got to sit there and say, man, do I got access to capital if I need it? You know, do I want to buy this building or lease this building? Or can I afford to pay this guy versus this guy? Do I hire somebody on full time and pay, you know, employee taxes, or do I do a 1099 and subcontract?
So it's like, how do you make these decisions? You know what I mean?
Well, you just figure it out, right? You got to literally trial and error, right? You know, if you know you can't afford to pay a lease, then you don't want to buy a building.
Yeah.
Right? Oh, I'm going to go buy this building. Oh, shit, I can't afford to even pay for it. It's cheaper for you to lease it. Somebody else is on the hook, right? So it's all these things you got to keep in mind because, you know, one wrong decision can just kill you, right? It's like you buying a building and one hot water tank can put your ass out of business. You know, hot water tank was $2,000, right?
Yeah.
So, you know, it's all these things you have to keep in mind when you start planning things out.
Yeah.
And for me, I'm a planner. Can you tell? I plan stuff out.
10 steps forward, 10 steps back.
Look, man. People like, what about this? Like, nope. Why? Because I already looked at everything. Right?
Well, you see step 6.
Right. Well, you know, people come to me when I had the store. They come in there and talk to me and they say, hey, man, I want to open a business. All right. Why you want to open this business up, right? My goal is to sit there and tell them every reason why they shouldn't open a business up. Yeah,
it's like you beat that shit down. You either are going to fold and be like, fuck, you're right, I shouldn't. Or you're going to just like fucking smash every obstacle.
Well, the thing is this, right? When this is your idea, you're going to find every reason to do.
100%.
But you need somebody to say, all right, what about this, right? And I tell people, I'm not being negative. I'm not trying to say you don't. Yeah. I just want you to think about the what ifs. Have that plan.
Devil's advocate.
Right. You got to be right. You got to sit there and say, hey, what if this happens? I didn't think about that. All right. Well, now let's talk about that. Okay. All right. Now we got that problem figured out. All right. What's the next thing? Right. Kind of go through because you figure it out now, so you prepare for it versus you in the midst of your business. Now you're like, shit, I lost 3 employees and the pandemic happened and I don't have no money in the bank and I still got to pay my insurance, my lease, all my cars, and, you know, blah, blah, blah. And I don't got no money in the bank. What am I going to do? Right. That's why they gave all that money out. That money was out to keep our economy from crashing. Right? Market injection. That's what they did for the pandemic because they learned from 2008 when they gave all this money to the CEOs of these companies and it didn't trickle down. That's when we wound up into that recession, almost depression in 2008. This time they gave it to the people and say, hey, y'all go spend this. By the way, you don't got nothing to buy because everything's stuck in China. That's right. But y'all got this money. Yeah. Figure something out with it, right? So, you know, it's one of these things, man. And the thing is about Athens, it's a bubble, right? And small business support small business. You know that people like, hey man, I'm only gonna go there because I know this guy, I know this kid, I know his dad, I know that I gave this dude this job because I'm friends with his dad, or I got this gig because I know, small town living, right? But at the same time, that's what keep things afloat here.
Yeah.
Right. It's that liability, that trust. Oh man, my heater went out. Shit, I know the guy that owns this. Let me call him. Hey man, hey bro, can you get somebody over at 7 o'clock in the morning? Yeah, I got you. Right, right. Small town living, but that's how this town functions. Because if mom stopped paying the bills, Ohio University, who gonna support who?
Yeah, I never thought about the dependency, that they have on it.
It's a very huge dependency. Yeah. I mean, you just got to look at it. All right, if 10,000 people not here, what happens, right? So 10,000 people not spending money uptown, that's 20 businesses who can't pay their rent for their business because they have no business. That means that the 200 people that's working at those 20 businesses don't have a job, which means those 200 people ain't paying no taxes, which means guess what?
It's just like gets worse and worse and worse.
Well,
and worse.
I mean, when you look at how these small towns have folded, right?
Well, I just don't. I don't know.
Well, you gotta look at these. We go look at Detroit. Right?
Oh, okay. Yeah, come on, Tyler. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I
Detroit making a comeback, right? But Detroit was automotive, right?
Yeah. Millfield with the fucking coal mine.
Right in your backyard, right?
Yeah.
Millfield, right? That used to be the richest area in the entire state of Ohio. Route 13. You can see the houses there. You can tell how much money was on Route 13, right?
Buckingham is the other one.
Right?
Yes, because it's like the.
Well, it used to be all coal mine towns. Coal mine towns, and how it worked is, and I know this from working at the radio station, is that the coal mines had different coal mines. They paid them in coal mine currency, so you only spent your coal mine currency and that utility, what they call the general stores. So each coal mine has its own town.
Back to the OU having the coffee shop in the fucking. God
so you
damn.
got paid. You got paid from that coal mine and that coal mine currency, and you went and spent it at that coal mine general store.
That's exactly what the fuck OU's doing. You pay OU and they just turn around and give you some fucking what the fuck? Oh my god!
If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Holy shit!
Just reinvent the wheel.
Yeah.
But it's still a wheel.
Fucking, powder coat it, put some sick little reflections on it, dress it up.
Yeah, that's how I learned that working at the radio station. Guys just come talk about, they used to do this show on a couple times a week, talk about just the history of Athens. They talk about the coal mine towns, and that's how I knew about the general stores, right? Just listening to, before a podcast, it was AM radio, right? These guys come in, talk for an hour, talk about, the coal mines should be this way, and the general stores, and you had this coal mine currency, and you had to spend it here. You couldn't go to this coal mine town and spend your money because they didn't accept that, Yep.
Fucking an iron hand with a velvet glove, just.
Yep.
Firmly.
It's crazy, man. It's a lot, bro. It's like I said, we can sit here and chat all day, about different topics. But the thing that's made me the person I am is that I've always kept my eyes wide open, and I always look for new opportunities. I'm always listening to other people. Some days just sit back and shut up and listen, right? And you'll learn a lot about a business or a person, or how things operate. Working on that cruise ship, I learned a lot about the world. And I learned a lot about the lies that we get told here in the United States, because you're talking to people from these countries. And they're telling you, nah, that ain't true. What? You're talking to folks, man. You're like, hold up. So this is, no, this is how it is. Oh, really? You start learning things.
It's a good distance between what you expect reality is and what it really is.
It's hold on. I won't keep you too much longer, but I'll leave you on this, right? And I'm gonna give you a cruise ship story, right? So I tell people this story all the time,
nice.
Right? So this go back to, man, it's probably 7 years ago. I worked on cruise ships about 10 and a half years, right? I still go out and work here and there. So I had a roommate from England. He was the trumpet player on the ship. So we was roommates, and we had shared cabin. So this dude used to come in. I used to work all the time. He'd come in late night from the crew bar. He had to drink at the crew bar. He'd come in, drink my Fanta. I tell people the story all the time. Tim knows the story. Like, dude, why you come drinking my Fanta? It's 3 o'clock in the morning. Why don't you bring one from the crew bar? Why are you drinking my Fanta? Man, I love the U.S. Fanta. Why? It's so much sugar in it. I love the U.S. Fanta. He said, we can't get this Fanta in England or the U.K. Why? He said, because the government regulate the sugar in the food. I wasn't hip to this, right? I'm like, okay. Now, this dude was a teacher. He was a music teacher when he was on the ship working, right? Very educated guy, Dan, cool dude. I said, what are you talking about? He was like, yeah. He said, yeah, man. He's like, all y'all food got so much sugar in it, but England regulate the sugar. He said, so our McDonald's tastes different. All our food tastes different because it's all regulated by the government. I said, oh, man, that sucks. He said, well, no, not really. He said, I'm going to tell you why your country is the way it is. He said, y'all want too much money. He said, I'm going to tell you how it works in my country. If I go to the doctor and I got high blood pressure, diabetes, or something like that, he said, they're going to look at me and they're going to give me a journal to go home. And because he had lost a lot of weight, right? He said, they're going to give me a journal. And I got to write down what I'm eating. I'll come back and show the doctor what I'm eating. They're going to look at my diet. They're going to put me to a specialist. A nutritionist. Nutritionist is going to come in and say, all right, we need to change your diet up. We're going to put me on this diet for 8, 9, 10 weeks, right? Come back, they're going to test me again. If I still can't get my vitals and my blood and my diabetes under control, they give me to a specialist. He said the last thing they would do is give you a pill. He said in your country, first thing they do is give you a pill. Mm-hmm. Last thing they do in countries with socialized health care. Right? He pointed out, because this was during the affordable health care debate. This was like 2008, 2010, right? Everything was Obamacare, this and that. They always talking about all this stuff. And, you always knew who was watching what channel. Affordable health care or Obamacare. You knew what channel they was watching, right? Yeah. Same shit, right? So he goes on, he say, yeah. So he say, so our food is regulated. He say, because the less dependent I am on a daily drug or lifetime drug is less money that the government has to pay for my medical. Say, ain't this something? He's like, yeah, so the healthier people are, the more money it saves our government who pays our health care. It's like, damn, that's a racket, right? Fast forward a couple years ago, I got on a ship in Europe. All the food coming on board was coming out of Europe. Completely different tasting food. Like, I eat certain things, man, my stomach like, oh, I better not eat this. Mm-hmm. You eat stuff over there, the food wasn't processed. It didn't have all the food coloring, it didn't have all the extra sugar, all the extra shit that you don't know what it even means in it. 6 ingredients, not 600 ingredients, right? So now you sitting here like, what I've been told all my life. And here we are right now. You got a guy that's sitting here fighting big food, big pharma, and he's terrible, right? He's the worst. He's the worst. He's anti-vaccine. All right, well, that's one agenda he has, but his main agenda has always been what? Getting the chemicals out of food. But that part ain't told on the news, right?
Oh, you're talking about RFK?
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Right? Oh, he's anti-vax. That's one part of it. But the rest of it is what? Healthier food. Yeah. Getting the pesticides out, right? So you can go overseas. Food. Have you been abroad? Have you been
never left the country. No.
So you go to different countries. Like, the perks of working on a cruise ship, I said, we can talk all day about working on a cruise ship, is you get to go to different countries. You get different foods, you get different lifestyles, you get different perspective, you get different drinks. It may be a Pepsi, but it don't taste like a Pepsi in the States. Mm-hmm. Right?
It's like Mexican Coke,
Mexican Coke, right?
The simple
sugar
one.
cane.
Yeah,
just
everyone
sugar
knows
cane,
that.
Right? That's the simple one, right?
Yeah.
But you go overseas, right here, people like from Italy say, why people in Italy is in such good health when they eat pasta all day long?
So not eating enriched flour pasta. Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Right? So you sit there and you learn stuff. Mm-hmm. You come back and say, man, what am I being told all the time?
Yeah.
Right? But then you apply that same ideas to your business and your life, and you say, all right, you only can change so much.
Yeah.
Tell people, you gotta keep people fighting over political stuff. And they don't realize what they're really getting lied to about.
Yeah, distract them. Yeah.
Make
the fucking noise so fucking loud.
So loud.
It's like, I'm gonna use more noise to drown out the noise. That's what I'm gonna do. Yeah.
Right.
Dude, A-Roc, this is awesome. I don't know how you haven't started a podcast. This was so great for me. Like,
good,
thanks for your time, man.
Yeah,
so
man.
the photo booth, the DJing, like, what's the website?
So hit me up, A-Roc Entertainment, A-R-O-C Entertainment. You can even look up A-R-O-C-K. I bought every domain that you can spell wrong, So A-Roc Entertainment. hit me up, info at A-Roc Entertainment. You can find me on Instagram at DJ A-Roc Ohio or at A-Roc_entertainment. I don't got time for TikTok. I'm not a social media person. I keep my private life private.
Cool.
So you can find me on Facebook and all this stuff. But yeah, man, A-Roc Entertainment, all points back to me. DJAroc.com, still own that domain, points back to me. So
what a pleasure. Thanks so much.
Man, thank you.
Awesome.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, for sure.